TikTok, it's time to rock, ladies and gentlemen. It's the 5150 show. We're back at you with another special. We've got John Conklin with us, Jimmy V, and our very, very good friend. The last time he was with us, guys, was back at the Christmas show. Les Paul, how are you, brother?
Good.
One question: does Les Paul have to be on the entire? He'll be on the entire show?
I'm gonna go into overtime.
Just joking, man. Just joking. All right. Yeah. Nice to see you, fellas.
Good to see you. Good to see you guys. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. We look forward to hanging out with you for a couple of hours. We've got a bit of an agenda here for you. If you guys have any questions about any of the topics and subjects we're going to talk about, please throw them into the chat. At some stage after our intro, I'll get one of the co-hosts here to go through and say hi to everybody. But John, looking forward to hanging out with you. It's been a couple of weeks since we've done a show together.
Yep, glad to be back.
And Jimmy V, you've been busy boy. You've been a busy boy the last couple of nights, brother. What have you been up to?
Yeah, first, always a pleasure to be on here. Yeah, we had we played a show on Thursday. It was Eddie's birthday, so I don't know, about like 8 or 7 months ago, I pitched this idea to this place, Park City Music Hall, that's in town here, and I'm like doing a Van Halen, night, a tribute, having my band play on Eddie's birthday, and it was a Thursday night, and it I was like, okay, Thursday, it could work. So we set it up, and it's in a nutshell, it went really well. We were all really happy with the outcome. We got there early and like set up and sound checked, and then we were in they first of all, this place, if you're local to like Connecticut or whatever, this place, Park City Music Hall, is in it's in Fairfield/Bridgeport, right there on Fairfield Ave, if you know the area. And it's just it's a beautiful place. They a lot of parking in the back because it's like a main street. So like, I'm surprised they have such a big parking lot in the back, because it's like,
wow,
primo real estate. Like somebody could easily have like bought that and put up like a condo or something. There's plenty of parking in the back, and they took care of us. I mean, they fed us. We felt like real rock stars. There was a green room. They had like dips and crackers,
brown M&Ms.
Yeah, bottled water. And
you trash the dressing room because of the brown M&Ms?
No, that's exactly what my guys referenced. They're like, brown M&Ms.
Schlitz malt liquor, Jim, for you.
Yeah, a little Schlitz for me.
Do you have any Crow?
And some chain smoking cigarettes.
Any Crow?
But it was a great. We were in the back, and I told I told Conks and Les this story, but I'll tell you guys too. But we were back there, and like when I set this up, so it was set up like 7 months ago, but I didn't really promoting a gig. You can't do it too much in advance, because then people get sick of seeing your stuff. And I have this thing where I pay Facebook to show our ads to like people that are kind of like geared towards like guitar playing or bands. So you don't want to. So I kind of like start this process like a month before the gig. So a month before the 26th is right around Christmas time. So I contacted them on like Christmas Eve, like the 23rd. I was like, hey, I'm gonna, because I wanted to post the link so people could get tickets, but I wanted to make sure that I'm not sending people to the website and the link's not there, right? So I went there and made sure the link worked, all that. Told them that I'm going to start promoting, blah, blah, blah. And the girl was like, hey, do you want us to give you like weekly updates on like ticket sales? I'm like, no, I don't like knowing that. I just like being able to do my job, trying to get people there and trying to sell tickets or whatever. And that's all you can do. I don't need to know that 2 weeks before the gig, I've only sold like 11 tickets. I don't need to know that. I just need to keep on doing my thing. So anyway, we did our sound check. We were hanging out in the back, and people came. Like we had like 120 people there that night on a Thursday, and they all were into Van Halen. I mean, it was a great crowd. At the end of the night, when I was talking to them about the night, they said that they were really happy. We brought people and we kept people. Like the people that came pretty much stayed all night. And I feel like my band, if you're into Van Halen, you're gonna stay because it's we play all these songs that nobody else does, And if you're into like Van Halen, you want to hear like the deep tracks that you don't hear every day. So it worked out, so honestly, to everyone's surprise, it worked out really, really well. And I was so super grateful to everybody. Janice was there. Thank you, Janice. I know you're in the chat. Thank you for coming. Thank you. It was great seeing you. Another person from our community, Louis Costa, was there. So thanks, Louis. And our friends showed up, and just diehard Van Halen fans that were into it. And again, we were so super grateful and so happy that it worked out for everybody. The place was great. They took great care of us, like I said. And we're probably gonna, we're gonna go back and we're gonna go set up like another night where I don't know, maybe we'll do 1984 in its entirety that night. That night we did Van Halen 1. At the beginning of the second set, we did Van Halen 1 start to finish, and that went over well. People were digging it, and I gotta say, we were super happy and super grateful that it worked out. So that's really it in a nutshell. There's a lot of other like behind the scenes stuff that we could talk about, but that really is like the gist of the night. People came and we were like, it's a Thursday, and surprisingly people showed up. And then the whole thing with like doing this band is like, yeah, your friends came, but you also have to attract people that you don't know that want to come see you and have a good time, right? And it worked out that way. So I'm forever grateful to everybody, So
Congratulations, bro, on that. Congratulations on that gig. And if you guys weren't aware, a couple of days ago, the channel was lucky enough when it was Eddie's birthday here to have Landro on. And Landro caught up with you guys at the EVH con and spoke about how inspiring it was to meet you guys, to meet you, Jimmy, and be around you guys for a couple of hours. And the fact that you guys were continuing again this legacy, this passion that we have, John, for this music and taking time out in your own professional career to stage this event. It's wonderful, because if it's not for real fans like us, Les Paul, doing this, you're not going to get this organic kind of growth. And I flicked through some pics there, Jimmy, while you were talking, and later on I'll flick again through them and you can tell us a little bit about them. But Johnny, you got anything that you want to say to Jimmy about the gig?
Yeah, Jimmy, the lighting at that place was amazing.
Oh yeah, it's when you're on there, you're on stage, you don't really witness it, but like, I got to give a shout out. I got to give out a shout out to my buddy Anthony Costa, not related to Lewis, and he came. He had the presence of mind to take these great pictures. Forever grateful. He says he shot some great video, but the files are too big. So I'm going to go meet with them this week and try to get that. I shot video. I've got pretty much the entire show from like 2 different angles, 2 different GoPros. So I'm going to try to edit it out. That's what I'm kind of working on now. But the lighting was. That's the thing, right? So the light guy comes in. We're in the back. It's like 7 o'clock. We go on at 8. The light guy comes in, and we play places that have light guys, but they never ask us anything.
Sure.
They lights, So the guy comes in and he's like, "You guys want any, you want any special lighting for certain situations or whatever?" And we're like looking at each other like we've never been asked this before, right? And we're like, "No." But I did speak up, right? I did because one time when I do Eruption, one time we were playing this place and they had a strobe effect. And I don't like that because it's quick on off of lights, and you kind of like lose track of where you are, sometimes.
I have
So
seizures.
yeah, so I was like, just give me a straight lighting on eruption when we do it. But then I was like, does this guy know what eruption is? Like, he seemed like, he was younger. Like, I'm like, and so they were like, just during when he's up there by himself, just have like regular lights on. I'm like, yeah, just do that. But yeah, the lighting was insane. I went and saw. So we played there on Thursday. The previous Friday, I went and saw this with my buddy. I went and saw this Rage Against the Machine tribute that opened up for this Tool tribute, and it's not really my kind of music, honestly. But I just went to kind of like scope out the place and check it out. And yeah, like so I was in the back, and like the lighting was just insane. Yeah, they know what that is like a great place. They know what they're doing. They take care of you from the moment you walk in the door. They take care of you.
It seemed like the lights made the stage look a lot bigger.
Yeah,
they had that like. I'm like, wow, that's a real nice product. That's a nice production there.
Yeah,
it looked first class. It was cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Look at
that looks like something out of Tron.
Yeah, that's my favorite. That is my favorite picture. Now, if you look at these lights, right, you can't really get the effect here, but my buddy who I went to that Tool show with, was
That's
also
cool
my
shot.
show. And if it's just those lights, if I don't know if Andrew can go back to that previous picture, but if it's just those lights, right, by themselves, it is. If you're like standing in front of them, like right here, right. If you're, it's kind of like at eye level with you, they are blinding. Like when I went to see the Schism band, it was blinding. And then my buddies also told me that like when they were like they kind of like tone it down as the show goes on, but in the beginning they hit those lights and they were like they told me again that like it was pretty uncomfortable when it was just that. You can't really get the effect, but those lights are bright.
Yeah. Lighting's come a long way since the Cream Farewell concert in '68, hasn't it?
Yeah, right.
Hey, Jim, let me ask you a question. Those lights, I mean, I'm assuming those are just straight up like new, like LED lights, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, I think they're LED.
I played in the '90s at a place and they had big lights, and there was no LED lights, and man, those lights were hot.
Oh yeah, I know what you. Yeah, you weren't really feeling a lot of heat from that.
Yeah, no. back in the day, I'm like, man, I didn't like the lights.
I can imagine. Yeah,
not on the back of your neck. You can feel that heat.
Yeah.
That's why I don't get people running around stage to get away from those lights. They're hot.
No kidding.
Yeah, I got to say though, bro, when I saw the pics come through on social media, I was really, really impressed. It looks really good. This pic here, there's some really, really great pics. So shout out to the guy for taking the photos. And
yeah, I'm forever grateful to my buddy who had like nothing against my other friends, but this is the only guy that had like he was in a band himself, so he knows like what people want to see.
Sure.
And like I me personally, I don't want to see pictures of me. I know what I look like. You know what I mean? But I want to see like so he was the one that went in the back and like took those pictures, and I was like, dude, thank you so much, because like I took some pictures from the stage to show the crowd, right? But it's a different perspective because even like I was telling him, I could be in the front, I could be on stage, and he could be in the back, and we could take the same picture at the same time. But because he's in the back looking at the stage, it looks bigger than for me on the stage taking a picture looking out. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, and because, ladies and gentlemen, we can't show video because of YouTube and copyright, I'll attach Jimmy's Instagram account to this video if you're watching on replay, where you can go and check out what Jimmy's got on his Instagram page. And while we're talking, I'll even grab it and I'll put it in the chat if you want to check it out.
I'm going to put some at some point like this week. I'm going to put some videos up. So if you remember. Search my name on YouTube. That's my
easy.
That's my account. So
I'll find it now, bro.
First, thanks for. I want to thank you guys for even caring to ask about the show. So thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it went well. It went well.
Can we hear you, Andrew? You there?
You there, bud?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here, guys.
Yes.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
I'm just sorry. I'm just looking for the Jimmy's YouTube. Sorry, Instagram account. But thank you, bro. I'll put that in the link here now soon. So I suppose the next bit of news before we get into talking about tone, because that's what we're here for. We're going to share a little bit about our experiences with tone. We look forward to hearing what Jimmy and John have to say, especially when it comes to the Kemper stuff. And if you guys notice, I think this one here, there to Jimmy's right there, there's his Kemper there. So we're going to just talk a little bit about that. We've got some gear picks as well. Les Paul is a tone nut as well, so he's going to offer a contribution. But I suppose the big news for Van Halen nuts is the post that came out a couple of days ago, John, from Sammy Hagar, something that we've all been anticipating for a while. If people have missed that news, do you want to share that bit of news?
Yeah, well, Sammy said somebody said something about remasters of the albums, and Sammy actually answered them and said that they are working on them, I guess, right now, apparently. And the live album was the first one they're working on. Don't ask me why, because the live album wasn't even live. It was re-recorded in the studio. So, well, I guess, but that's not the one we all care about. We want to hear, 5150, OUA12, and, we want to hear those ones remastered, all that era. But my as happy as I am, my response was, does Alex know about this? Because I always got the feeling, I think we've discussed it before, that Alex and Eddie were so bitter over Sammy, that he was making money off of their name. And, for anybody that doesn't know, the story goes is that, the club was losing money after they all invested in it. And then Sammy had offered all of them, saying, listen, I'll buy you guys all out. I don't want to screw you guys because it's losing money. And they all said, okay. And he bought them all out. And then miraculously, a year later, the club was booming and doing great business. And then the tequila came next, and he turned it into $120 million. And Eddie and Alex were always bitter. To me, that was the real thing that kind of led to the breakup of that version of Van Halen, is that particular, that Cabo Wabo, the club and everything that came from it that made Sammy very, very wealthy. And they felt that they were screwed out of it by him. And so they always held against him. Even on that reunion tour, I remember hearing at meet and greets, people wearing Cabo Wabo t-shirts. They had to take them off because obviously Eddie wasn't in a good way, but they're like, you can't wear that in there with him there. And we know Sammy went and got a Cabo Wabo tattoo on his arm so that Eddie would have to see it every night. You know what I mean? It was pretty bizarre situation. But I think Alex and Eddie felt that, listen, he's not going to make any more money off of our name because we made him famous. He was a mid-level rock star. We were superstars, you know what I mean? And we let him into our world, and he became a superstar because of us and with us. On his own, he's not, and I feel that they felt like, well, we're not going to feed him anymore. I mean, he's rich. He made all his money off that. We're not going to remaster those albums. We'll go back to with David Lee Roth. We'll hitch our wagon up to him. That's where we became who we were. And a lot of people identify Van Halen as the classic version of Van Halen anyway, So I think they went that route. I don't think they, I remember reading in, I think it was the Rolling Stone guy that Eddie became friends with. No, it wasn't. It was actually on one of those other shows, the Dave and Dave show, the podcast. They had some insider. Well, that guy, whoever that guy was, I think was dead on. I mean, that was something.
Yeah, that was one of the best. If you're if you're a Van Halen fan and you haven't heard that, it's just mind blowing. That term gets used a lot. But that's a mind blowing episode. You got to look that up. Yeah,
a lot of
it was like a deep. It's called something Deep Throat because that was like their Deep Throat. Yeah, it was great.
So he said in there though that they never really had any hatred for Roth like they have for Hagar. Hagar, it's true hatred. Roth, it was just like he was a family member, and just an annoying family member. And it was never over money with Roth. It was never about money with him. It was just that he was just really difficult to get along with, and that was
More
it.
ego. I think Roth was more ego.
Exactly. But with Hagar, it was different because it came down to money, you know. And I always got the feeling that Van Halen, as Eddie and Alex, were very bitter over the fact that in the 80s, they never made the money that they should have made, being as big as they were. And I always point to like a band like Bon Jovi, who was like, you know, they're like a pop band. You know what I mean? Really, it's like I don't consider them anywhere near the level of Van Halen. You know what I mean? In the pantheon of rock music, it's like, please, you know what I mean? Van Halen is like our Led Zeppelin, America's Led Zeppelin, I think. You know what I mean? Even more so than Aerosmith, because Van Halen wrote their own music. You know what I mean? Aerosmith, right? Exactly. So, so I think that the bitterness from Hagar came there, and Eddie and Alex were not going to remaster and put anything out for as long as they could get away. Eventually, we all know it was going to happen, but I think they were just like, he's not making any money off of it while I'm around. You know what I mean? Well, I could, as long as we can stop it. We don't need the money right now. It can just sit there. You know what I mean? They could care less. But now, I guess, you know, maybe it's going to happen. But my response was, does Alex know about this? Because I'm not sure, you know, Alex wants to do anything at this point anymore. So who knows? I'll believe it when I see it.
I gotta say, I had the exact same thought. Like Alex is involved. I thought Alex hated Hagar. You know what I mean? So that was the very first thought I had too. My other thing that, like, I don't know, maybe Conks knows a little bit more about this, or Les Paul, but because I'm not really an audio guy, but like you know, remastering, you know, it doesn't really change anything really. Maybe make stuff louder.
Yeah, that's it. It makes it blasting loud in your car, right?
Yeah,
It's make it sound better. I mean,
remixing.
hearing a remastered 1984, you're not going to like Van Halen anymore. You know.
Yeah, so I don't know what that really means. Honestly, I don't. You know, like remixing, like you know, like they just recently they did a remix of Holy Diver, and they like brought up stuff and brought down other stuff, and they like fade, like instead of like songs fading out, they left the faders up so you can hear everything that's fading out. Now, if it was like that or something, I'd be like, oh hell yeah, because there's like some new material. But remastering that doesn't really mean a lot to me.
Right.
I mean, I could be wrong. I don't really know.
I think the thing with remastering, obviously, there's going to be negatives and positives from various camps. We saw it with the Beatles when Giles Martin has come out and remastering. He's going through the whole Beatles canon, you know, mastering it for the modern ear. I think from a business point of view, Les Paul Gibson, it's a smart thing because it keeps the album and it keeps the band, you know, in the social media feed, which is not a bad thing in itself. Yeah. But you know, I think it just adds to the controversy too about whether or not you like the original versus the remastered. We had that with the Derek and the Dominoes remix. You know, Bobby Whitlock came out and said that when it was originally done, it was a band remix. It was a band mix, and now the remix that came out 30 years ago, it's an Eric Clapton remix because they pushed Eric Clapton's guitars all to the front, which is not what the whole band was about. So yeah. I love the debate though, Les.
Well, you know, and it's interesting. Like I was in Target the other day, and it's amazing how many older albums. Like I even saw like a Van Halen album. You know, the record, actual record. I'm like, oh, cool. I don't have a record player. I haven't used one for years, but I'm like, that's cool that for people that that like records and hey, it's great for Van Halen, more sales, more keep it. It's not like they're not going to be ever not relevant, obviously, but I think a few years ago Van Halen put out their first 6 albums on HD tracks, and I bought them, and they were high definition audio, and they sounded great. And then a year later, they remastered those first 6 albums. I'm like, I'm not going to buy that. I've already spent enough on these, and they sounded fine. But, you know, like I know John, you know, he would like to see OU 812, the bass remastered, definitely on that, remixed.
Correct.
So I think that album could use an overhaul in the audio department.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's just like a lot of purist people are like, no, well, that's like it's like a painting. That's the way it is, and don't change the painting. A lot of people. I think what's good about Giles Martin is that he went back and remixed actually some stuff, I believe.
Sure.
Correct? Yeah, which, some people, they like, oh, purists might not like that, but I like that. I'm glad he broke that, that window and went there, you know what I mean? So I would hope that they would do that, but I don't think they will. The bottom line is they don't do anything. They haven't done anything for fans for years. They don't only except hold fans in contempt. Yet we're all still here because of the greatness of Van Halen. But they really have held fans in contempt, really, and they don't. It's listen, hey Alex, Ed, how about doing something for the fans? They want remasters and stuff like that, but they just wouldn't do it because their bitterness. They were the most dysfunctional band I think I've ever seen. You know what I mean? It's just like every other band could even get it together for, they couldn't even get it together for that. Even at the very end, you know what I mean? I thought Michael Anthony would have called Eddie and just, made peace or something. And like that didn't even happen. You know what I mean? And I thought he was the most reasonable one that's, would have said, hey, you know what? I'm just going to put it aside. But, everybody's got pride. And for whatever reason, he didn't pick up the phone or whatever. And I think he knew, obviously, because Sammy knew that he was on, he didn't have much time left. He went and called him. So, but it just goes to show you, they were just a very dysfunctional band. And I mean, when you think about it, the output in the last 25 years was not much of anything, but because they were so great, that's why we're still here. You know what I mean? So
John brings up a good point. I'm wondering if they got along so much better, if they would put out more, more albums would have got pushed through, maybe 3 albums in 3 years rather than, or whatever, 2 and 3, like they could have got a lot more done, just because, not to mention, management that's another problem. And there's always something holding something back,
Well, look, and I agree, and I think this conversation that we have is always going to be intriguing, and it's always going to be out there on Van Halen topic shows, isn't it, about this? And I think the mold was broken when Jimmy Page. How many times has Jimmy Page, John, and Jim gone through and remastered Led Zeppelin stuff?
Yeah.
3 or 4 times, and he's probably not finished. So he's going through. He's hitting the cash register for a starter. And again, so Janice asks, what's the point or what's the advantage in remastering? Well, from a business point of view, it's smart. And rock and roll is a business, so let's acknowledge that. But also, it's going to give us all more controversy to talk.
It's just going to sound sound better.
Hopefully, yeah.
When they remastered, and I talk about HD tracks all the time, and people, think I'm kind of funny, but you're getting 24-bit audio, 192 hertz. The sound through high fidelity speakers, it's like taking a blanket off the speakers. You're going to hear Van Halen like you've never. It's like hearing it the first time on CD.
Wow.
Which is like, wow, this is really clear. When you hear 316 through headphones, I mean, you can hear the ping ponging of Ed's delays and stuff. Or
wow.
Just the headroom on his guitar and vocals and the production. It's that much clearer. It's almost 3D.
I'm going to go on record here and say that I am not interested in remasters. I don't see a point of buying remasters personally. You're going to remix it. You're going to bring some bass up or something on OU812. Okay, I'll check it out.
I agree. It's not what we want, but I tell you what, it does make things when I'm listening to like Van Halen on random tracks. It's like the stuff that is remastered is cranking loud, and then when it goes to something from OU812, it's like I'm turning the volume all the way up, and I'm still not getting enough volume.
That could be an advantage.
That's the only thing that makes it easier. But I'll say, like to Janice, is like if you listen to the Best of Both Worlds, the greatest hits collection, that's all striped up like the Frankenstein, and you listen to the Sammy songs, they were remastered on that album, and then you go back to the original albums, and you'll hear the difference. They're much more subdued on the original album. They really, are much louder and just in your face on the remasters. So I think it's been a good thing. But the bottom line is, I think we'd all rather have them unearth a gem of a song that was never released. And I know they have some. You got a whole album of Gary Sharon stuff that was, done, and they could release stuff from that. And I'm sure it's good. And and there's other stuff. There's this other song Sammy said that was for Twister that they it's like a mid-tempo
Yes.
kind of ballad that is done. He said it was completed. So
Yes.
I mean, let's hear that stuff. You know what I mean? It's like it's not going to change. You know, there comes to a point with all these bands, be it the Beatles or Led Zeppelin. It's just like, yeah, you want to protect their legacy by not releasing any subpar stuff. And Wolfgang said if there was anything good, it would have been released. I mean, to a point, I get it, but it's not going to affect the legacy of a band like Van Halen or Led Zeppelin or any of these bands. If you go back in, because we all want to get in their heads and say, oh man, listen to this. This is something completely different. We never heard anything like that. A song we never heard. It's not gonna hurt their legacy. Even if it's not as great as, Running with the Devil, it's still going to be worthwhile for the hardcore fans.
John, it's been proven with the re-releases over the last 5 years. Let's use the Beatles as an example, where they release the album Revolver, but all the demo tapes, all the demo songs associated with the great songs on the album. So, from a landscape, from an artistic, from a visual sort of oral point of view, you're getting the whole plot. You're getting the whole genesis of this great song that we're all familiar with, like Tomorrow Never Knows, but you're listening to the 3 or 4 other versions, and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the fans.
Why wouldn't we want to go through that experience as Van Halen fans, Jimmy?
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. It's like that Whitesnake, like the '87 album or whatever. They did some box set.
Yeah.
And there's, or even the following one, I forget what it's called right now, but both of them have like these work in progress tracks where you kind of see how songs are being built, or you've got David Coverdale just like singing some vocals, or the mic was left on and they're talking in the studio. That's not gonna tarnish anybody's legacy. That's just stuff that fit. Look, like John Smith in like Topeka, Kansas. He might not buy this, but this is for Van Halen fans, like everybody in this chat. They're gonna buy that, and I would love to hear something like that, like a work in progress of any song, but this kind of like. So that brings me to my next point is like, do we think Alex signed off on this? He must have, right? He can't just do it without him, right? I mean, he doesn't have to be involved, but he has to give his permission, right?
Right. Well, we always said that's the easiest thing to do is remaster the albums, because he doesn't have to do anything except sign his name on somewhere, right?
That's what I mean.
I think
at that point, you don't know if Alex hates him so much that I'm trying to find out, does he hate him that much? Is he involved in this?
Well, he won't return his phone calls. We know that, right?
Yeah.
You guys,
I'm pretty sure they were left off each other's Christmas list this year.
Wolfgang wouldn't have had a role to play in this, do you think?
I don't think so.
Probably.
He leaves the Van Halen stuff to his uncle. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And one thing, like Jimmy was saying too, like Hysteria by Def Leppard, it's a damn perfect album. It's their Joshua Tree, if you will. And there's songs that didn't make it to it, and I'm like, yeah, this song, it's production wise, it sounds great, but I don't like this song, and I see why it didn't make it to Hysteria. But it was cool to kind of hear these songs. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I still would have bought Hysteria, but I was like, yeah, I didn't care for that song. But it's cool to hear it.
It's going to be released it's not going to be released as singles. This is just for diehard fans, man.
Right, exactly. It's not going to make you think any less of Hysteria.
Yeah.
Or
if you hear some track, and it's not going to make you hate Van Halen 2 all of a sudden, whatever it was.
So, Les, do you think it's the record company then? Finally, the record company's going ka-ching, ka-ching. Let's.
I mean, there's a good aspect. Like it's good for the money. It's a moneymaker. People, if you put out remastered Van Halen, or if Wolfgang got some material, suppose he put out a solo, it'd go platinum overnight, and I think it's great. But I don't think it's not going to hurt fans. It's kind of like when I read the book Red by Sammy Hagar. We've all read that book. There's some pretty disparaging things against Ed. It didn't make me hate Van Halen. I was like, oh wow, I never knew this, or I knew this, I didn't know this side of the story. But hey, to quote Extreme, there's three sides to every story. So who knows?
Yeah.
I wasn't there.
Nice, great album.
Nice.
I bet remixes of that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I mean, listen, it's something, and I guess something is better than nothing if it's true. If it's true, so we'll take it.
Hey, you don't have to buy it. You know, I mean, somebody will put
Good
it
point.
out.
Yeah.
I'm probably not.
No, it's good.
He's saying that now, but we'll have an Instagram post of him fighting to get in line first at the record store.
I tell you what would be really cool though. This would be very nice if they remastered an album and put like a track or two that they didn't put on and tacked it on, or like a live version you never heard of the song or something, just to kind of move it along. You know, that'd be kind of cool.
I'll tell you what, if they did an alternate cover, I'd maybe buy it. But
hey, I think Jimmy and I were talking about the other day with like if they put some of the extended solos or takes, if somebody give me a doctor with the extended solos, I'd buy it just for that. Period.
Yeah, like Dwee, I don't know if you guys, we were talking about this. I don't know if you know about this podcast that Dweezil had. Dweezil had like he played over the air in his podcast an alternate "Hear About It Later" solo.
Yes.
Like that's crazy. I mean, could you imagine? You know that I got goosebumps. Listen, I mean, you use that term a lot, but that was really it was frightening hearing it. Like this exists. How did I mean, I know Dweezil and him are he's best friends with the family, but like, what else is out there?
I think there's enough.
Up until that day, we know none of us thought that an alternate "Hear About It Later" solo existed.
Yeah,
you know.
I didn't even know there's a extended solo to "Somebody Give Me a Doctor" told Paul Gilbert on the episode of Dweezil and Paul Gilbert. I've heard alternate takes and stuff, but I didn't know. I never heard it before. I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
different take on it. It's longer. It's a different take on the solo. It's really cool.
You know, we've heard before that they have these box sets prepared and everything. Warner Brothers had them ready to go, but they just wouldn't sign off on them. So all we can hope for is that Uncle Al needs some money, and then he'll sign off on it. You know what I mean? That's
I tell you what I would really like them to do right here, right now, where every song they have the same clothes and pants on and the same guitar without changing clothes 3 times and pound cake.
Don't get me started on that. I can't watch that. It looks ridiculous. I can't watch that.
I almost wish they never put that out.
Yeah,
me too. No, you know what? I don't mind the audio. The video is just stupid.
The video just gives you a headache.
Video every second frame. The album. Look, I'll put the album. Oh, you're not watching anything. Oh, you don't know. I mean, we all know now, but okay, it's a live album, great. But the video, one frame, Hagar's got red pants on. The other one, it's yellow and black.
Yellow pants. Yeah.
It ruins the illusion, man.
Yeah, exactly.
At least Live Without a Net is straight through.
Yeah, that's what we love, man.
The director cocked up there, didn't he, when he did this?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, YouTube has a lot of great shows that are, audience shot from the 92 tour, 91, 92. Yep. I'd rather watch that. There's a great one from like Florida. I'd rather watch that because you're watching an entire show.
You feel like you're there when you're watching those shows too. It's more like a real concert. You know what I mean?
You feel like you're there, yeah.
And right here, right now, it just feels like it's put together by some art student.
Correct.
Put this and this, this and this. It's like stitched.
How about they take Live Without a Net? They go back and they remaster the video for 4K if it's possible, or even high def, right? But they restore it to the actual concert. You know what I mean? With like "You Really Got Me" is number.
The solo.
The full solo.
I can't give you my money fast enough.
And release it on audio and video like that. That would be. And that they don't have to do anything as far as that. Don Landy mixed the original audio for that for Live Without a Net anyway. So it's like just take that audio and just
I can't give you my money fast enough for that.
And my favorite little project that I'd like to see them do is remaster OU812 and do a 4K edit of the Live in Tokyo 89 concert, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, at least it's a document to watch, even though that one was all re-recorded in the studio too. I think that one's even worse than Live Without a Net. I mean, not Live Without a Net, than Right Here, Right Now. I think that, I remember that one particular. It it was completely recorded, I think, in the although, you know what, right here, right now, they actually put monitors in the racquetball court at Ed's house, I think with mics, because he had cables going from the racquetball court. He had a patch panel in the racquetball court going up to the studio, and they played them through the monitors and got the ambient sound from the racquetball court and re-recorded it. And that's how they, for that live album. So, I mean, that thing is like hardly live.
Yeah. It's so, I feel like it was like literally done in Pro Tools.
Yeah, well, listen to Once Love on the Japanese one. It's just like the background vocals are like, it's like, sounds like the record. It's like too perfect, you know. So
does it sound like Mutt Lange got in there?
Yeah, right. But Live Without a Net is, listen, Don Landy did the original mix of that. Just remaster that, release it. Hopefully he did. I'm assuming that they edited it and cut it afterwards. So he probably mixed the whole thing with the full guitar solo and with whatever Good Enough, Their Dreams were probably on it, and also You Really Got Me. Just go back there, take that, remaster that, release the audio as a live album, and then clean up the video and release that in 4K if you can, you know.
And Andrew, when I lived in Dallas, there's a place there called Bill's Records and Tapes in Dallas. Great place. You can get bootlegs like you would not believe. They had a box of pictures, and each picture was like $1. It was like, 3x5, 4x6s. And it was every concert from like probably 2 to 89. There's pictures from Dokken, Van Halen, Kiss. Van Halen was 1984. Pictures from the Dallas show that I was at that I was like, wow, this is from the show.
Wow.
Eddie with his pants. You can see the Kramer, how good it looked. But anyway, they had a Van Halen bootleg there. And I bought it, and it was like $15 CD. And I just bought it. I didn't listen to it. As soon as I got home, it was Live Without a Net audio version. The whole thing.
Wow.
Except, there might have been a song or two off, but, You Really Got Me. Summer Nights, like everything. I was like, yep, this is Live Without a Net on audio.
Wow.
It's great. I wish I still had it. I have no idea. I'm sure the bootleg's still out there. And it was great.
Hey guys, I know we're a Van Halen show, and I know that we're going to talk about Tone soon, but we mentioned, Les Paul, you mentioned earlier Hysteria by Def Leppard. Can we just make a slight little detour here, because I know that we all sort of nodded our head when Hysteria came up. So clearly another perfect album. So Les Paul, just tell us a little bit about what you think about about that album, and then Jimmy, and then John. I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say about that album. 1986, I think that album came out.
87, I think it was.
I think it was 87, but I think the singles came out in 86 in the summer.
Yeah.
Like Pour Some Sugar on Me. So I loved On Through the Night, Pyromania. I saw them on Pyromania, I think in 84, and and everybody's like, hey, it's a new year, where's the album? And then they didn't have it, we're working on an album. And then, you heard about Rick Allen losing his arm, all that stuff. I think it was right after Vince Neil had that bad car wreck and killed, what's his name, Razzle? Anyway, like when the album came out, like it was the summer, I think I was just a freshman in high school. Gosh, I love the album. It was great. I think it's a stellar, perfect album. There's not one bad song. My least favorite song on there was, I wasn't ever a fan of Women, believe it or not. I think I heard it so much. And then Love Bites, I don't know, every song on there is great. The vocals, the guitar, the songwriting, the songs. It's cool how they recorded that album. They use Rockmans and Randall amps, and some of the riffs and solos are simplistic and great, but it's, look at the sales, look at the impact. It really made them. But I think what's really interesting is how long they took out. And have you heard those demos of some of those songs before Mutt Lange got to them? They're bad. I tell you what, if Mutt Lange didn't save them on that album, I don't think we'd be talking about Def Leppard right now, period.
Yep.
Because he saved their ass on that album, and they know it. I think he's like the fifth member of Def Leppard. I know me and John talk about Mutt all the time about, his ability, and Bob Rock and all those great producers. But man, they really, really saved their ass on that album. I think they were blessed to have him. But it's perfect. damn near perfect album. I mean, you know, you can crank the shit out of it, and I don't think it needs to be remastered or remixed or nothing. Just leave it.
Jimmy.
Just make it longer, I guess.
Me. Okay. Well, I bought Hysteria the day it came out. I, unlike Mr. Gibson, loved women. I love that song.
I love women too, just not the song.
So do I.
And so I bought at that point. My family we owned a restaurant at this mall that's like a couple miles from here. It was like just a like a fast food Greek place, and so I bought the album, and I mean at that summer, I mean that's all I listened to, and that was almost a year before they released Pour Some Sugar on Me. So like, you know, I loved every song on there except for Love Bites. I can't stand Love Bites.
Same here.
But it was you know, at that point I was up in Boston in university, and so when I play that album, it just reminds me of like walking the streets to my classes at night or whatever, and coming back. It is everything. You know, I got it up here on my phone. You know, everything on, you know, even like the deep tracks like Gods of War, Don't Shoot Shotgun, Riot. I mean, are great tunes. You know, Excitable. It's just, you know, and then what happened was, so I was listening to it like from day one, and you know, at that, you know, looking back on it, the history is that, you know, that album wasn't selling a lot, and they spent so much money on it that the record company was really nervous, you know, and so like, I don't know, like many months later, maybe even a year later, because I remember, you know, Pour Some Sugar on Me was crazy during this one summer. I can't remember, it was 87, 88, but you could not escape that song.
Or that video.
Or that video, yes, exactly. Yeah. But it was many, many months later, and that song alone pretty much saved them. That song alone probably sold 5 million copies. You know,
I think Joe Elliott said that they had to sell 5 million albums.
Yeah,
to break even.
That's why. Yeah, that's why the record
company time.
A lot of people, for some reason, a lot of people didn't like Women. I loved it. I loved that song. Still one of my favorites because it's not over you know, played. You know, I love Animal, but I don't really need to hear it again. You know, I love all the hits, but I don't really need to hear it again though. You know, but like I said before, like, you know, these other tracks like Run Riot, Gods of War. I actually saw that tour. I saw that tour in Hartford when they were in the round, and when one of my favorite bands at the time, Tesla, opened up. They were on Mechanical Resonance that tour. Oh my God, it was what a show! And like all the girls that were there in Hartford. Oh my Lord, I'll never forget it. It was like
all the women.
Unbelievable. Sleep with every girl on the audience.
And look, we kind of have to say that band lost a lot when Steve Clark died. He was like the rock element of that band. Yeah. You know, he was like the rock of that band. And then, you know, I don't know, maybe things would have been different, maybe not. You know, the times changed, but I mean, I remember seeing like, you know, Steve Clark up there with the guitar down at his knees and stuff, and they were all running around the stages, you know. It's crazy. But no, I have I love that album. Always have, always will, you know. I don't really listen to it a lot now, but that doesn't diminish how great it is, you know.
Yep. John,
Conks,
what's your experiences with that album? Thank you for that, bro.
I love it. I still play it all the time. Nothing like putting like Gods of War on Saturday morning and pissing everybody in the house off at that beginning, that bass. You know, I wake up my whole house. They curse me out. My kids, you know, turn that shit down. I should be telling them that, but they tell me that. But yeah, and like that's a great point by Les, because you know the Jim Steinman, the guy from Meatloaf, did the demos. He was supposed to produce that album. And,
that was him. Okay, I can't
remember. And it just, you know, rest in peace, Jim Steinman. But it wasn't working, man. They needed Mutt to save the day, and you know, and man, did he ever come through on there? And you know, he really is the fifth member because that's his voice you're hearing a lot on those background vocals. That's I'm a huge Bryan Adams fan. I think he's a great songwriter and everything. And he did Waking Up the Neighbors, and he still works with Bryan. Even Bryan Adams' new album, for some reason, they hit it off. I guess I think that he was like an instructor to Def Leppard on how to do things, and how to write songs. And I think he schooled them, and all they learned a lot from him like that. I think with Bryan Adams, it was more like they're kind of like, this is my equal, my songwriting equal. And so I think he enjoys working with him because they still do. They're like his last album. But I saw on one of these YouTube shows that they mixed that album Waking Up the Neighbors, and apparently Keith Scott, the guitar player from Bryan Adams, said that it's like a Def Leppard mix. It sounds just like Def Leppard, but it's Bryan Adams singing. And he goes, he has a copy of it. He goes, but Bryan had to go back to Mutt and say, Mutt, it sounds too much like Def Leppard. You gotta change the mix around. It's too much like them. But there is a mix of it that sounds like Def Leppard with Bryan Adams singing on it. But those background vocals on Def Leppard are I mean, you listen to the Cars. Heartbeat City, hello
Oh
again.
man,
That's Mutt Lange singing that. You know what I mean? It's like he's all over that. And I mean, talk about prolific. Go on that guy's Wikipedia page. It's amazing the stuff that he's done over there. From remember Billy Ocean, Get Out of My Dreams, Get Into My Car. That's Mutt Lange. I mean,
yeah,
all the songs right, all the Shania Twain stuff. It's just incredible. But that album, it was just like, and Def Leppard was never the same after. It's funny because I remember buying an album after it, and the only song I really loved off it was that song Promises. And then you find out that, oh yeah, that's Mutt Lange. That's the one song in the album that Mutt worked on them with or whatever like that. It's like, I don't think, they still make good music. I remember they did that one album where they did some covers. I enjoyed that album. They did the Kinks, what was it? Waterloo Station and stuff like that. I think that a brilliant version of that. And that was and I was surprised because I usually, any of their non-Mutt Lange stuff, I'm kind of like, it's just not as good. But I thought they did a good job on that album. And there's some other stuff that I do like of theirs, but nothing like that. That album really is like the perfect album. And Women, like you pointed out, it was great to put that out as a first single. I guess it was risky for them because, it kind of didn't light up things, but then the album caught fire, but it did expose people to that song. And I think it's a great song. It's a long song. It's just a great, I never turn that one off when I hear it, so, but yeah, brilliant.
You mean Gods of War?
No, I mean Women actually, but I love Gods of War, but yeah, Women is, I think, a great song too. I mean, I love them all. Armageddon, Run Riot. I love all of those songs. It's a brilliant album from start to finish, but I think it's, Mutt is like hugely responsible for that. Everything he touches, there's a guy nowadays called Max Martin. He's like the modern day Mutt Lange now. He's like, if you look at his Wikipedia page, you're like, oh my God, this guy's like written every pop song you hear on the radio now. And he's like the Mutt Lange of today. But Mutt Lange is a genius. He's about 80 years old now, believe it or not, Mutt Lange.
Wow.
Yeah, he's that old. But I mean, even Huey Lewis in the News, Do You Believe in Love? That was his song. You know what I mean? It's like incredible, but yeah, great album. Anyway,
two things about that album for me, guys, and people in the chat. It was an album that rockers were listening to, but it was also an album, guys, that the normies were listening to as well. It was a crossover album. It was a huge album here in New Zealand. Wherever you went, Jimmy, this album was being played. It was on cassettes in everyone's car that you were jumping into. It was just a phenomenal album. And I also remember, too, when I hear any song on this album, John, I think of mullet hairdos. I think of us wearing our white singlets and with our stonewashed Levi jeans and our white high-top basketball boots back in the day. That's what we were wearing and rocking out to. Phenomenal album. I keep saying it a lot. It's an album that brings back an experience and also memories, Les Paul, of a time in my life vividly, and I'll always appreciate it because of that.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's like anything else. You know where you were when you were listening to Hysteria.
Yeah,
it's
true. Huge album.
We were just talking about this yesterday. We were texting each other that new song by that band Ghost. And Joe Elliott sings on it, and it's
I didn't even know that. That's crazy.
No.
Yeah, you can hear his voice. It's like kind of like he's singing in unison, I think, with the singer from the band. But if you guys haven't heard that, somebody mentioned it in the chat. I'm trying to find who it was in the chat, but we were just talking about this yesterday, and that song is pure 80s hair metal-y kind of pop. I mean, it's just It's like got a guitar solo. I don't know. You familiar with that one, Andrew?
No, I'm going to check it out.
Ghost, and it's called Spillways. Now, Jimmy
Okay.
tells me there's some kind of devil worship band. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they worship the death. They're like King Diamond, right?
Yeah, no, it's supposed to be like a death metal band, but that's like the most pop. I swear, you'd swear it was like a bunch.
The Satanists and they've got a pop song out.
Yeah, that's it. Kind of when he told me that, it's kind of like okay, but I mean, give it a listen because it's a great tune, especially with the version with Joe Elliott on it.
I've seen that band Ghost. The lead singer dresses up like the Roman Pope. He's got this. Wears a mitre and he's got this.
Well,
he walks around like this.
Yeah, he's supposed to be like Satan's Pope or something like that. I mean, like the cross it's an upside down cross.
Yeah, it's some kind of weird big theatrical deal or whatever. But if
anything happens to my soul because I listen to that, I'm going to blame you guys.
I know, but let me tell you, I didn't know that. If you don't put that out of your mind and listen to this song, because it's great. The chorus is great. It's well written. It's just like it's a really, really catchy song. You'll listen. It'll be in your head after you hear that song. You know?
So if I see the video, I can actually say I've seen a ghost.
There you go. Yeah, but it's called Spillways by Ghost. But
that's funny.
Rim shot. Need a rim shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I thought they were King Diamond. I was like, hey, is that King Diamond? Is he like Catholic now or something? You know?
Yeah, it's just really weird. That when Jimmy told me that, I Googled them and I was like, oof, maybe I won't, stop listening to this song.
He always changes his appearance, so it's not so demonic now, but if you go back a year or two, you can see like the weird Pope, like the Satan Pope and the Satan priest and all that.
I think some of the guys are different to me. I think they kill off the lead singer or they get rid of him after every album or something. It's like the studio musicians are different than the live band. It's all on their Wikipedia. I read all this stuff.
Yeah, it's the same guge, Tobias Forge. It's the same guy. He just changes his look, and like the band wears like what do they call them? The ghouls. You can't see their faces, so it could be anybody. You know,
Dave Grohl was one of those ghouls. He wore something covering his face in like 2013. He played the drums on something.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah,
it's so funny.
Jim, you know too much about this Satan music, man.
Jimmy, you're frozen.
Are you going to church tomorrow?
Jimmy, can you jump out and jump back in? You're frozen. We've got audio, but we don't have video of your brother.
Okay, you can hear me though?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I have to reboot my machine. Give me like 2 minutes.
Okay, jump back, bro. Yeah, because we've got to see you.
Yeah, of course.
We have to see you.
You look like a ghost.
The Satan stuff came up, and look, Jimmy's screen froze.
Yeah, dude, you got hit. You got possessed.
That's it.
Oh, well, there's money in Satan music, you know.
You look possessed.
I'll definitely check that out, guys. I look. I think at the end of the day, you know, it's interesting, isn't it? What happens with collaborations, isn't it? It's one of those interesting things because clearly, Joe Elliott doesn't need to do it for the money, so he's just doing it as a music project, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's just like Vivian Campbell, you know, playing with Def Leppard, him doing The Last in Line and other projects. Clearly, he doesn't need the money, or Phil Collin. Those guys have, you know, got profits and residual. You know, I just think it's cool that they're doing it to branch out or just keep doing other stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But look, I'm glad that we had a bit of a tangent there about Def Leppard because I remember High and Dry when I was a young fellow. I remember High and Dry being a really, really big album with my friends, guys. But we were the metalers, and I somehow sort of skipped Pyromania. Pyromania didn't hit my radar until obviously. I think Hysteria was the album after that, and then all of a sudden I remember just going for a drive with some of my friends and listening to that CD. Well, it wasn't a CD back then; it was a cassette, and it was just like phenomenal, just a phenomenal album. And then obviously hearing all the stories years after about how just they were recording one guitar solo, one guitar line at a time, and they were getting Joe to sing a little bit like Axl, one line at a time. It was just nuts, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They really took some time, making the album, which is, I mean, obviously the homework paid off, you know. And I like, it's funny, you listen to Pyromania, it's more of straight ahead rock, still catchy. I mean, I loved the song Photograph. That was like one of my favorite songs from them. It's just such a perfect song, you know.
I still think it's their greatest song, Photograph. I
do too. It's so catchy. That intro's cool. You can hear those old 50-watt Marshalls. Just
I never get tired of that song.
You know, and it's one of those songs you hear it on the radio, you just want to crank it up.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, it's a good mix. It's just great. And they played the shit out of that on MTV, man.
Yeah, they did. That video really blew them up.
I remember my uncle in Dallas had a MTV in 82, 83. And I remember you had to have like satellite because it wasn't on cable. And I was like, I had his house flipping through the dish to watch MTV to see that and Scorpions and all kinds of shit. Van Halen, Jump, you know, whatever.
So what did the band think at the time from guys that you've heard when they were recording this? Did they have any idea, John and Les, what they were actually doing? You know, did they have an idea that they were? Because if you look back at rock and roll history, a lot of bands will say, yeah, we know we've got a great album here. Did the band think that they had something really good?
You know, to be honest, I think that they were working. I felt like they were really spinning their wheels. John, you could probably quote me on this, when they were working with the old producer before Mutt stepped in. And then I think Mutt goes, okay, let's just start over. It's kind of, you know, and it's almost like a waste of time with the other guy. And then, I mean, I think they knew they felt it when it came together. They probably, oh, this is going to be big. But Mutt Lang said something. It's pretty cool. He goes, with an album like that, you have to get it absolutely perfect or it's not. It's either perfect or it's not. And I think everybody will say 20 out of 20 people say that album is absolutely perfect.
Yeah. Well, they also said that they wanted to make the hard rock thriller. And I think they did.
Yeah, that's right too. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they did with that. They accomplished that. But they also said it was torture working with Mutt at the time because he was just like such a perfectionist and stuff. And he would try make them do all these crazy things. And I think, you know, drove them to drink these guys. They said it was like torture. You know what I mean? It was like, it took so long to make that album. And, you know, and he had that signature sound, but he's actually, you know, that big drum sound and stuff that he used on other albums and stuff. He went away from that. He does regular stuff too. I don't think he's crazy. There's a band called Muse, and he produced the last couple of Muse albums. Mutt Lang produced them. He worked really well with them. So he's still around, but he's kind of low key. But I mean, I would love to. Oh well, yeah. That's the only things I've seen him really on his Muse. And I know on the last Bryan Adams album, he sings on it, the background vocals, but it's not that Def Leppard he's singing. It's his normal voice. But he sings background vocals on like 3 or 4 of the tracks, and they're stellar tracks. They just sound phenomenal. And when you look at it, you're like, who wrote this? It's like, yeah, oh, there you go, Bryan Adams, Mutt Lang, you know. So
did they recorded that in Dublin, I believe?
They did, yeah.
Because I remember they were living together, all together, and like a place. It's kind of like that British show. The Young Ones. He said,
yeah, the Young Ones, yeah,
because they were just like partying all the time, and then when Mutt got in there, I think he really kicked their ass to kind of get back in shape. But I've always thought Mutt is kind of like the Stanley Kubrick of music producers, a perfectionist, and you take it, you keep doing it until it's perfect.
Yeah.
I think it gets to a point in rock and roll history, guys, where it's got to take a certain producer, whether it's his personality, that has to click at least with a lot of the band members or certainly the significant leaders of a band for it to work. You know, we saw that with Jimmy Miller with the Stones. And you mentioned another album when you were talking earlier, Les Paul, you know, you mentioned U2. So it was a little bit like U2 when they met Brian Eno, you know, when they were doing all their first albums. And then when Brian Eno came along and they did the Unforgettable Fire and then Joshua Tree, and then they just changed the whole sound. And then all of a sudden, this band that was underground just became this world phenomena, you know. And I don't think we can underestimate that relationship between the band and the producer and what they can do. And, you know, we've got great examples, John, through rock and roll history of that working.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is definitely one of those examples. You know what I mean? That's why I think a producer is so important. That's why Van Halen 3, in my estimation, failed. because
sucked because of that. Yeah.
because they didn't have exactly. You had people saying yes to everything Eddie, everything he said. Yes, 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 Eddie, yes, yes. And instead of somebody cracking the whip, like, no, this, and that I always think Van Halen worked better with a real producer. You know what I mean? Like, look at, some people love balance, but you say what you want, but it's a well-produced album. It sounds great. Bruce Fairbairn. What's funny about balance? I want to bring this up. I don't know if I ever did. I had spoken to Mike Frazier, who mixed that album, and I was talking about some of these songs. Is like the Seventh Seal on that album.
Yes.
It's like that was so different for Van Halen because it had a lot of, it had the monks chanting, it had those huge like kettly floor toms, Alex, boom, during the chanting part after the solo. That particular part, I mentioned that to Mike Frazier, and he goes, "Yeah, that's all Bruce Fairbairn." Because he goes, "Think about it." He goes, "Think of Janie's Got a Gun" by Aerosmith, which he produced. Janie's got a gun, dun, 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 boom, with that. He goes, "That's those sound effect kind of things. That was what he added in his production style." And I was like, "Whoa, that." So now every time I hear Janie's Got a Gun and I hear that tom thing, I think of the Seventh Seal with that big boom, with that.
It's like his signature production.
Yeah, so that's so producers do bring certain things to it. You know what I mean? Obviously, they went and got Andy Johns because they wanted that Bonham drum sound, for For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge too. So, and I just think that, because he was the producer and he knew what he was doing, and they're not going to really jump on him. That's why you hear the bass on For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. It wasn't like, hey, turn that down a little bit here. It's like they finished their parts and they let the guy do his job. That's what he was hired to do. And I also think that was, I don't think any bands that produce themselves are doing them any favors. Extreme is another band. I love Extreme, like Porno Graffiti. I love that album. That Michael Wagner, I thought he was a great producer. He did all those metal bands, Skid Row and stuff, and he used that ADA, the MP1. They all used the same setting and everything on that. But I love Three Sides to Every Story, but I'm not as crazy about the overall sound of that because it's very dry. The drums have like no.
They sound like a shotgun. With
ambience, it's so dry. Even the guitar is very dry. The songs are great and everything like that, but on the production, I don't really like that. And that was really like Nuno. And then you start to go to the other albums after that. They went real lo-fi after that. Like
what was Sawdays or the last one? They sound like he turned down the gain.
Yeah, exactly. But it was just like that's an example to me of a band that, I mean, I think if they had a real producer, it would really help them out a little bit the sound wise. I know they're doing their own thing, but I just think it's not as that. You listen to Porno Graffiti, you go back and listen to that now, that it still punches you in the face, man. That just the sound of that album. And I know bands change. Obviously, we're talking about Van Halen. It's like, some people love the first Brown sound, which is the early, Van Halen 1, that kind of sound, the first, 6 albums, but it changed even throughout those, we know. Fair Warning, 1984 wasn't as gainy and stuff like that. Then the second era is when he started to go more, the harmonizer stuff, really heavy duty on that, and 5150 OU2, and For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, he went to high gain amps, which that's completely different from the original stuff. But a lot of people love that sound. I love them both. You guys probably do too. But and it kept changing. He always said that it kept changing. And then his last sound over the last 15 years. I didn't really like Eddie's, tone of that. It changed, you know what I mean? But I mean, I guess they all do change, and Nuno changed, every band kind of as they go along. But but I think back to the producer thing, I think that every band really does need a producer. That's the bottom line of that.
I would have loved if Bob Rock got to work with Van Halen on just one album.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he would have been perfect. Because I know he worked with Roth on a little enough, but I think he's level-headed. He's good. He'd be great for the band. He worked with the Crew, Metallica.
Yeah,
it just been pretty cool. And Van Halen, I think, was really lucky to find Ted and stick with him. Like, they found their guy early on, and that was great. To think if they hadn't have found him, who knows what the other guy would have done with that first album? It could be
exactly
different. He might have said, "You know what? We don't need to put Eruption on. Nobody wants to hear that."
Right.
Thank God for
Yeah,
they true. Supported Ed and like, hey, it's the greatest thing I ever heard. Crank it up.
100%.
Get Bob on the remastering, maybe.
Desmond Child was Johnny Bean's producer. Well, you know, he had a track record, right? The funny thing is that they did bring him in to Van Halen, which would have been, you know, sacrilegious in my mind. I was like, thank God we never heard any of that stuff. In the 2001, when they recorded there, Desmond Child was brought in to write some songs for Roth, believe it or not. And
I wouldn't doubt it.
obviously it never panned out, luckily. So it's like, you know, I don't know. But, you know, listen, Desmond Child, I mean, he's got a track record, right? I think Paul Stanley introduced him to John Bon Jovi because he wrote "I Was Made for Loving You" with Kiss, and then look at what he did for Bon Jovi. You know what I mean? So and
He did Crazy Nights too. He wrote that album is just pure pop.
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost like cookie cutter pop, but man, it's got Desmond Child written all over it.
Yeah, exactly. No,
Hey,
for a
Brian.
while in the 80s, he was another guy that was just, you know, Belinda Carlisle. He was all over. He wrote a lot of the Cher. I think he wrote songs for her. You know, he made some good money, that guy. But anyway, I think everybody needs a producer, though.
Yeah, definitely.
Fantastic. Always good when we can go down some side streets and come back onto the main road, guys. So, we're Jimmy. We're glad you've managed to crank up your PC, bro. We were just detouring there for a little while.
Detuning.
Glad to be back.
Detuning. Detuning. Good one, Les. Good on you, brother. So what we're going to do is we've got some pics here of that's your pedal board, bro. That's the pedal board that you use when you gig. Is that correct?
Yep, it's the one. Yeah, it used to be a lot bigger, but I kind of streamed. Well, it used to be a lot bigger, but with the same stuff on it, because I was too lazy to get another smaller pedal board. But I was able to acquire a smaller one, so that's it. That's all I really need.
Awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the part of the show where Jimmy and John and Les, we're going to talk a little bit about gear. We've got some pics that they've supplied us that we're going to put up here on the screen and just share some thoughts. So, Jim, do you want to kick it off, and then we'll get John to go through and just share some of your observations with chasing the EVH tone, bro.
Oh yeah, definitely. Hey, do me a favor, Andrew. Can you put up the guitars first? Let me talk about the guitars first.
Yes, bro. Give me a second. Where are
Thanks,
they?
dude. Okay, so those are pretty much what I bring to my gigs. What is that? There's 5 of them there. They're all pretty much exactly the same. A while back, I mean, when I was a kid, I that the famous Kramer Ad Frankie poster. I had that in my room, and it's a Strat, but it's not really a Strat, because if you look, this is a good example. If you look at those upper horn, you look at the horns. The horns are not Strat shaped. The horns are much bigger, right? Yep. So I was always so enamored with that guitar. I mean, I used to stare at that ad. I still have it downstairs in my room, in my basement. So I ended up meeting Nick Amandolero. I think most of you guys know Nick. He's one of the best probably the best Van Halen replica guy out there. I was talking to him, and I've always wanted a replica of the Kramer Ad Frankie. And I asked him, when I was first talking to him, we hit it off, still friends to this day. I think he's working on something for me right now too. But I asked him if he ever did a Kramer Ad Frankie. And he hadn't, but he knew this guy, that we all know, but at that point I didn't know him, named Chris Locke. And he said that Chris could do the body, right? And I'm like, get out of here. This guy can cut a Kramer Ad Frankie body? He's like, I think so, yeah. So we contacted him, and I'm 99 to 100% sure that the Kramer Ad Frankie body didn't exist at Chris Locke before I asked for one. So what happened was we put an order in and had some bodies done. 2 bodies were done. One was for me and one was for Nesdal. So they did 2 bodies.
Oh, and, okay.
the Nick then got the bodies, and I ordered the neck from Musicraft. The neck was just what I like. Basically, it's I'm not really into, like, I don't really care if, like, my 5150 guitar isn't the exact neck as Eddie's. I want to have a neck that I like on it, really, But so we got the bodies, Chris Locke. So they ended up, he sent. I remember when I first got the picture of the body that they cut. I'm like, that's it. That's the body with the big horns. And if people that know me know that I like really heavy bodies, really heavy,
Really heavy.
really.
Insane.
Like I have a body upstairs that I love that is almost unbearably heavy.
I think it's 14 pounds.
Yeah, so that's another story. But so they ended up making it, and now Chris offers it and stuff, which is great. But I don't know if too many people. I mean, I know people have done other Kramer Ad Frankies, but I don't know if people actually play the body like I play that body. So all those guitars that in that picture are the exact same body, Kramer Ad Frankie. And one time, probably the third guitar. So the first guitar that Nick made me was the stripe one, the real replica. And then I had him build me that second one in line, that black one with the black headstock right there, right behind the white one. The white one's my main guitar that I play, but the black one, you can. I don't know if you can see it in that. Yeah, you can see it in that picture. The black one has a capo, so I use that for little guitars. But the second one, the black one, was the second guitar he built me, and then the third one was a red one that I don't have. But the story behind that is that it was exactly the same as the other ones, right? It was exactly the same as the two previous ones that I love. I still have to this day, and will probably never sell. But he built me a red one, and the red one, and I didn't know this at the time, how important weight is to me, right? Other people want light bodies, not me. So he built me, I just told him, we ordered a Northern Ash body from Chris Locke, like the other ones are. They're all Northern Ash. So I didn't know there was that big of a sway in weight for Northern Ash. I just thought it was, heavy, like my first two ones. And so when I got that body, it was much lighter. And for some reason, I couldn't bond with it. I just didn't like it. Now, I ended up selling that one, and the guy that bought it loves it to the point where he asked me where I got the body and stuff like that. So, to each their own, there was nothing wrong with the guitar. I just couldn't bond with it because I like heavy guitars because they feel real to me. They don't feel like toys. Sure. That's my own site, right? So anyway, the bodies are exactly the same. The necks are exactly the same. Some are maple necks. Some are. I don't think you can get ebony anymore, so they're Richlight. I can't tell the difference. I don't even think about it as being Richlight unless it looks exactly like ebony to me. The white one and the purple one in that pick have stainless steel frets. The other ones are just regular nickel. Because then I eventually switched on over to stainless. Like I said, the necks are exactly the same. The pickups, we had a discussion before we went live about pickups. Conks was talking about the Pasadena 86, and I'm kind of done with pickups. I know what I want. The things that I kind of gravitate towards that I think have like the best Van Halen sound for me is I love the EVH Frankenstein, and it's basic copy of the Pasadena Black is a basic copy of the EVH Frankenstein. So I have both of those, iterations in the guitars. What I do is if you see my guitars and it's a black pickup, then it's an EVH Frankenstein. If it's anything but black, like a Zebra or something, then it's a Pasadena Black. But I love those pickups. In fact, I remember, I don't know, like a year ago, whenever that was, they, Dave Friedman and Pete Thorne, they did that, 25 pickup, Van Halen sound shootout thing, right? You guys might remember that. And I think it was blindfold or whatever. Like they didn't tell you what was what. But when I watched it, I wrote down the numbers that I liked of what they played, and it was the EVH Frankenstein. and the Pasadena Black, surprisingly. Right? Yeah. So so they're all pretty much the same. I don't know if you guys have any questions about the guitars. It's really, it's really just the same. It's the same guitar except like different, graphics or whatever, different paint jobs or whatever. Sometimes like the pickup, sometimes it's like I have them carve it out where it's kind of like a Beretta-ish, slanted pickup. Sometimes it's just one single humbucker. And oh, that's the other point, is that I just like one humbucker. That's one humbucker and a volume now. That's for me. I'm not really big on switching pickups or whatever, so it's easy. So yeah, there you go. So those are all basically the exact same iteration of that first Stripe guitar. And if you want to go to the pedal board, Andrew, I can talk about that. All right. So what I've got here is, I've got the tuner. Then it goes into the MXR Phase 90, which is an Analog Man modded one that kind of similar to what Les Paul just picked up. I've got two H9s. One of them, what happened was, if you look at the H9 to the left, you'll see that it's missing that black knob, right?
Yep.
It still works. You still turn it. But what happened, I was playing in this Zeppelin tribute a while back, and I opened up my gig bag, and like the knob was missing. Like it wasn't even in the bag. Like it just disappeared. I didn't even know what happened. Like you figure, like it broke in transport. It should be in the bag somewhere. Anyway, so I had one H9. So then I figured, well, the H9 is a great device, but its only shortcoming is that it can only do one effect at a time, right? So if you look here, you can kind of see what I've got going on. Like the one without the knob, I just leave on for a slap. Now it's not, you can't really hear it. It's not like dun dun or whatever. It just widens. It's so short that it just it's more of a feel thing. It just widens your sound a little bit. It's not a delay like most people use a delay where there's a repeat. There must be some kind of repeat, but it's so slight that you can't really hear it. It just makes your sound a little wider. And then the other one, the one with the knob and stuff, that one I have midied up to my Kemper. So when I switch patches, when I switch profiles from like, I've got my main sound, which is just my main sound. I have both of them set to the same slap. So it just kind of like widens it out. But the sometimes, like for example, if I'm playing Pound Cake, I'll switch to a different profile, and it'll change that one H9 to a pitch shift that I've got for Pound Cake. Or right now you can see it kind of says VH delay. I have a slight delay set up for Eruption or whatever. So one of them just stays, is always set on the slap, and the other one does all the changing that I've got. There's you'll notice that there's two NS2s. I could probably use one NS2. I've had two, so I used two. One of them is in the loop, and that takes care of any amp hiss. So it's just like super quiet. There's no, like when you have an amp on, it's like no noise at all. So that's the one that has an R on it, that goes in the loop. And there's one that has an A on it. That means that goes straight into the front of my Kemper. And that takes care of like, it kind of like handles your feedback a little bit. There's not that much, you can still get feedback, but it keeps things really quiet. So, so like my rig is just super quiet. When I'm not playing, there's no like hiss coming out of the cabs or anything. And when you stop playing in certain parts, there's no with like little feedback or whatever. Okay. And then the last part in the chain is this MXR CAE line driver that I have in the loop, and that has solved a lot of problems. I used to when I was in that Zeppelin band, because that's in the loop. you can hit it, you can turn it on, and it gives you a solo boost. Like, you know, you're at one volume, you hit it, and then now you're like 3 decibels louder or 5 decibels louder. I can't tell. Maybe it goes to 20 decibels. But since I'm playing Van Halen, I always have it on just to add a little bit more volume. And just between us here, I also use it as a volume knob if I need to turn up the amp a little bit.
20 dB. 20 dB.
Yeah, I don't go over. Okay, 20. I don't go over to the amp and turn it up. I turn it up there, so nobody really knows.
They do now.
And you know, I talked about the Kemper a lot last time. I love that thing. You know, obviously I use it on Thursday. The thing is so easy. Like I said, you turn it on. I connect 2 cables to the back, send and return. So my pedal board's in the loop of the Kemper. And it just works so well, man. It's like I've got it, like I said, for like you'll notice, you know, I'm in a Van Halen band, but I don't have a flanger. Maybe you noticed that there's no flanger on that pedal board. I've got I got a great flanger set up. It is so exact to the Unchained setting. I got to give I shout out Wendell Walker. Last time, he's the one that designed it. He basically took his MXR flanger and just tweaked that Kemper flanger until it was, I'm telling you, it is perfect. Like when you do the Unchained, it goes doop doop doop, and then the next time it goes doop doop doop, right? And you can set, because of the Kemper and what it can do, you can set that flange as loud as you want. So when I step on the button to activate it, it activates my flanger immediately, but it also boosts me up. It boosts up that effect 3 decibels, so you can really, it's super loud.
Wow.
You can really hear it, really accents it. And I mean, the thing, you know, these guys, everybody's probably sick about, you know, me talking about this Kemper. It makes life so much easier. Nobody really cares if you've got a real amp up there. I played this place for the first time about 2 years ago, and the sound guy was helping me unload my car, and he's like, and we've become best friends since then. But he's like, yeah, so what are you running? You running like a 5150 or something? What are you running? I go, no, man, I got a Kemper. He's like, oh my God, thank God. Thank God. Right? It's so easy. It's so, you can hit a button and you've got a clean sound. You can hit a button and you can have the craziest sound you want. And then you hit that button again, and you're back to a basic clean sound. Whereas before, and look, I'm not taking anything away from, you know, Conks and Les and I always talk about this. And there's nothing sexier than an amp head and a cab. Okay, there's nothing better than that. There's nothing and I ran that. You know, this band that I'm in, this is our 10th year. I've only had the Kemper, I think, for 4 years. So for previous 6 years or whatever, I had a Splawn quick rod, and the amp was great. Okay, but like I used to hate when I had to do like we would do Women in Love or something, right? And I would have to have, you know, you do the tapping part in the beginning where it's delayed but clean. And then you got to go into like, you know, like the electric, you know, like the electric part. And I would have to, for the clean part, I have to turn off, you know, any boost that I had and any other effects. And then, you know, trigger a delay delay pedal. And then when I had to go into the dirty part, I had to turn all that stuff off, which is hard enough on stage, and then turn stuff on. In the space of like that second where there's a cut and he goes, you know, from clean to dirty. Okay. With the Kemper, it's just so easy, man. It's just so easy. You know, you've got your clean sound, you set it, and it never changes. And wow. like I said before, you know, one of the advantages of that amp, and I think I see Les like nodding off because he's sick of me.
No, I'm not. I'm just this chair sucks.
No, I know. But it's so, the advantage of that thing is that if you buy an Axe-Fx or if you buy a Helix or something, right, you're stuck with that modeling. The Kemper isn't really modeling. it's basically a snapshot of a real amp that you load into your profiler. Now, like I said, I played all these Splawns for years, so I knew what that amp sounded like. When I loaded in a Splawn profile that I got, it sounded exactly like my amp, and that's what I use. 80% of the show, I use this one Splawn profile, right? Then I've got different iterations of it for like different songs, like maybe a little phase shifting if you're going to do Girl Gone Bad or something or whatever. But so 90% of the show I play that one profile all night, and then I might switch it. Sometimes I forget, but I'm supposed to switch it when I do Pound Cake. I go to a Soldano, and if you don't like those profiles, you can go out and you can profile somebody's amp, or you can buy these profiles for like $30 and try them out. But you can't load other stuff in to an Axe-Fx or a Helix. I don't think. I know for a fact you can't for an Axe-Fx, right?
You have to depend on the updates.
Huh?
Yeah, I think you have to depend on the updates.
Yeah, and the other thing is that like Les said, he kind of triggered something in my head just now. The other thing is that this Kemper is like 10 years old. You don't have to buy another one. Whereas the Axe-Fx, every 2 years they come out with a newer one, more powerful, blah blah. So people have to dump their Axe-Fx's and stuff. I've had that Kemper, they update the software or whatever every I don't know, year or whatever.
Got it right the first time.
Yeah, sometimes they'll give you like I think there was one upgrade where they gave you like more delays, more effects, new stomp boxes, but the basic skeleton hasn't changed in 10 years.
Wow.
Anyway, so that's what I mean. For me, that's what I use, and it works great. And like people commented on it at the shows, and like that's my next thing. People don't care, like in you care because we're all like gearheads and stuff, so you care. But people don't really care if you've got a real amp up there or not. You know what I mean? They just want to hear the songs played. I mean, you're not going to play it through a twin reverb set on clean. But
I think, Jim, you've just explained to us clearly from a guitarist perspective, you're getting 3 or 4 different effects on one song. So when you're playing live, you're getting the reproduction of that song easier with a Kemper than you would have with anything else. So that's got to be worth its weight in gold that you can do that.
One second, let me be right back. I got to do something for my dog. But yeah, you're absolutely correct, Andrew. Hang on.
No problem. Jimmy's going to come back, and then when Jimmy's finished, we'll get
Johnny. Sorry, that was my dog. My dog's getting restless.
No problem, brother.
But yeah, but this thing, there's this thing called morphing, and I honestly, I just touched it's just like the tip of the iceberg with this Kemper. You can go as deep or as shallow as you want. Me, I just load profiles in, and if it sounds good, I keep it. I don't even tweak anything. I don't.
Wow.
Because you get so many profiles off of an amp that like maybe you adjust the gain a little bit, or and that's the thing. You get the profile, but you can also now treat it like it's a real amp. You can add or take back gain. You can treble, bass, mids, all that. It's like a real amp. So I don't really go into the menus and tweak around. I just load in a profile. Oh yeah, this sounds good. It works. Yeah, and you play it. And I've never been. And the other thing that I was gonna say is that with this morphing thing, that's what happens when I step on that foot pedal to trigger my flanger. So it triggers it, and the morphing, what it does is it morphs your sound. It can do like 15 things at the same time. It could add delay, add chorus, boost volume. If you wanted to have a different EQ, you can, and you just step on that button and it'll do all those same things at the same time. Or you can set it where you want your flanger to come in real slow, like after 10. You step on it, and after you can set it. If you want that flanger to come in after 10 seconds, you can set it where it'll count 10 seconds and it'll start bringing in your flanger, or take it out. It's incredible. Anyway, I feel stupid talking about it, but I love that thing, and like I tell these guys, Kemper for life.
You love it at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're loading stuff.
Oh, yeah. I have it in the rack. It's so easy, and you know, like you can just set it. Your sound never changes, right? It's very consistent. Like we talked
We were
about.
talking about that the other day.
Yeah, we talked about earlier where I had when I was using my splawns, it's a living, breathing thing in a way. You bring it into a room if there's people there, it sounds different than if there weren't people there, And some nights you feel like you can play anything. Other nights you feel like you're struggling and stuff. But I don't see it with that Kemper. I love it.
Very consistent.
Awesome. We'll come back because there's some questions there for you, Jimmy, on your Kemper. So, John, we've got gear cam set up. Do you want me to put gear cam in the stream? Do you want a gear cam now? Shall we?
Yeah, try. Does it work?
Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. We're going high tech on the channel. This show, high tech.
Does it work?
There's gear cam. Can we see gear cam?
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Oh, wow, yes.
Oh, there's gear cam. So we'll isolate gear cam.
All right.
There's gear cam.
So there's a Kemper. So basically Jimmy covered the Kemper pretty well. I mean, and it's true. It's like, sometimes you turn on a tube amp and just some days it just doesn't sound great. It one day it could sound great, the next day it just doesn't sound great. And the Kemper is pretty consistent. I agree with him totally on that. It's just sounds the same every time, and there's so many different profiles. It just makes life a lot easier. If you look over in the corner over there, I have like a Vox AC. There it is, AC10, and I love Vox. Just the sound of a Vox, the Strat. I love the way it sounds through there. I have a Gretsch, and I love it the way it. So, but I don't even use that anymore because these guys gave me first off, Les and Jimmy are like, for the last year and a half, were pounding me with, you got to get a Kemper, you got to get a Kemper, you got to get a Kemper. So I finally got a Kemper, and then they just drowned me in profiles, like every type of profiles. And I love, that Vox sound, that chimey sound. And these guys, they gave me every Vox profile. What were the other one? Matchless profile. I mean, just so many. It's like overwhelming. That's how many profiles I have from these guys. And then, of course, all the Van Halen Top Jimmy ones and stuff. But I don't even use that Vox at all anymore. I never even turn it on. But yeah, it's just phenomenal. So I have the Vox and I have the power amp underneath it. You can see that these guys, theirs are powered. I guess the power amp's built into the one they have. Les, you have the toaster, I think, right?
Yeah. Toaster.
It looks kind of like a toaster. And Jimmy's got the power amp built in, but I have a separate power amp there. I have another power amp under that Vox over there. But and the 5150 PV head, the block letter there, it needs to be retubed. I don't use it. I just have it laying there on top of there you go. I use the 50 watt there, the 5153 up there. And I kind of mixed it all up here. I got the 112, I got a 412, and then over in the corner there, I have a 212. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, it's under that power amp. There's a 212. Yep. So I got every basically setup that you could ever need, really. And and it's I have the wet dry wet set up here too. So that's basically what that is. So, but wet dry wet, it's not really difficult for people to do. You just really need 3 cabinets. You need a little box that'll drop it down, the signal down a line level coming out of the back of the amp, and then a power amp. And that's pretty much all you need. I mean, maybe one day we'll do a show on that. We'll just go piece by piece or something on that. But it's pretty simple because so I have a pedal board down here. Nice. And I think you can see it right there. I think the only thing I don't really have it all hooked up right now because
I like the H9, Johnny.
Yeah, you go. You got to have the H9. But and of course I have the CAE box that Jimmy has, custom audio electronics boost line driver over there. The thing's amazing. That's Bob Bradshaw did that with MXR. It's a great pedal.
Wow.
Highly recommend that for a little boost in your solos, like Jimmy says, or he just turns it up, to get a little more, volume too. So all of these stomp box pedals that you see here, for the most part, go into the front of the amp. That's the way I have it set up. So I'll go right into that boost right there. Then I go to the wah pedal, and then I go to the flanger, I think, or right now I don't have the Phase 90. It's somewhere around here, but I know that you guys used it for EVH Con. So when Joe brought it back, I don't know what I did with it. But it's around here somewhere. So I have that. And they all go through that this switcher down at the bottom right here.
Sure.
So you just turn them on and off with that, and then you just change the amp channels with that. And then so through the effects loop, I have the smart gate over there. You see the silver smart gate? So that goes through the effects loop. And then the H9 and the DD500 right there, delay, which is a great Boss delay. It has the SDE 3000 algorithm built into it, and you can split it into 2 delays. So I have it set up 398 and 798 milliseconds to go left and right. I don't want to bore people with all that, but so basically, the center 412 is just the dry signal going in there, and then the H9 and the DD500, those are what's going. The line level signal is coming out. I gave you a picture there of a little box before, Andrew. I don't know if you have that. If you could throw that up.
Yep. Give me a second, bro.
So you come out of the speaker out of your head, and you hit this little box here. It's made by Bray. They make amplifiers. But it's like a line level box right there, LO1. So basically you come out of the amp on the right-hand side there, the speaker through.
Yep.
That's just hitting there, and that comes out the other side and goes right to the 412 cabinet. But out of the top there, it drops it down to line level.
Wow.
Signal. Yeah, it's cool. It's only $50. So I highly recommend that go David Bray. They're built to order, so you order them and then he puts it together. But it's simple. It works great. It's got a ground lift in it. It's nice. And so out of the top there, it drops it down to line level, and then you go out of that down into the H9, and I go left and right stereo out of that into the DD500 left and right from the line level signal, and then they just go separately into the power amp, and then into the left cabinet, and then the right cabinet. So basically, those are only, those 2 effects are going through the power amp at line level and just going to left and right speakers. So they're completely separate from really everything else. I mean, it's like one day we can do like a show on that if you want to do that. But it's pretty cool because if you're in the room here and you kick that the wet dry wet on, it's just like mind blowing when you hear the that delay, that spatial 398 to 798 millisecond delay. But yeah, it sounds really, really, really cool. But but that's pretty much it. And if you want to record stuff, I just put an SM57, and then I use Logic, and I have the Eventide, their plug-in for Logic, so you can get the micro pitch, shifting it on there, and then I just use delays that are in Logic, and it sounds pretty good. But you can duplicate the. I like the Kemper; it's great, but sometimes I like just plugging into the tube amp too. I have no problem with the Kemper. Listen, if it's John Mayer uses it and Mark Knopfler uses it on tour, it's like it's.
I left out one thing. If I can just add something, I saw Brody Hutchins was asking. Brody, big fan, so I wanted to answer this question for you.
Yeah.
He was asking about pushing air. Andrew, if you can, can you bring up that picture of the Kemper if you don't mind? If not, it's no big deal. But I run mine straight into a 212. Most guys would probably run in-ear monitors and run an XLR out to the board or whatever that is, right? Yeah. So you can see there's a 212 there, right? So I connect it. I think of it as an amp. So I just I take the out from the back of the Kemper, plug it into the input of the 212, and you can see that the guy was asking me. He's like, "How do you want this thing mic'd? Do you want to run an XLR or something from the back?" I'm like, I don't have any IRs set up, so it would sound like total crap. But I just put a mic in front of it, and it's like an amp. It'll move air. You can feel the air moving. So it's like almost like the best of both worlds in a sense. I've tried in-ear monitors. It's a little sterile and stuff, so I can kind of understand what that's all about. But I just use it like it's, you know, like if it was like a Marshall head or something, really.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
into a 212.
The amp is
Yeah,
600 watts, so it'll move some. It's loud. It'll definitely drive any cabs.
Do you do that all the time? Do you always mic it into the everywhere you play?
No, you know what? Sometimes I don't. I used to. You know, my buddy Wojtek. He's kind of like the sound guy that we use. He had me put in IRs, and I used them for a show or two. But there was this weird crackling. Like I was you know playing a little bit in my basement one day when it was just me, and there was this weird. It was crack. You could easily hear it. It was like a best way to explain it is like after you hit the note and it would ring out, it would crackle, and I'm like, what the hell's that? Like it didn't sound good. Like there was something wrong with the Kemper, right? And I was like, I checked all my stuff, and 5 minutes later, I'm like, I turned off the IR and it went away. Now I could probably use some other IRs or whatever, but like to test out IRs, you gotta almost put your thing through a real PA just to you can't really test IRs like at home. I can't, right? Okay. So but to get around that question, sometimes the guy throws a mic in front of it. Other times I have one of those radial boxes, right? So I put that between the Kemper and the cab, and then they run an XLR out of that. So they basically take a feed from like the back of the Kemper, but it's a feed that has the cab kind of like reeled in. You know what I mean? So that works, and so that's almost as good as putting a mic in front of it. When we didn't really have like sound guys or anything, that's how I would run it. And one of my guys would, Jeff came and would put an XLR in the back of my radial thing, and whatever it's called, I forget what it is, GX2 or whatever, and put it into the board and it would come out the mains, and it works just as well as a microphone.
I like that. Thanks, Jim. I just breathed a huge sigh of relief. You are moving air, Brody.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. Thanks, bro.
Just a little bit of information for people. We've got Brody coming on the channel in a couple of weeks' time, and we're going to be doing a little bit of this kind of stuff with Brody too, talking gear as well, guys. So go and have a look on the channel and hit that notification button, and we look forward to spending a bit of time with Brody because he's a gear nut too. So
Brody's got gear.
Yeah.
Brody's got gear.
If there's any other questions, folks, just throw them in the chat. Les Paul, you've got a bit of gear there behind you, bro. So give us a bit of a rundown on your experiments with tone chasing, brother.
Oh, thanks. Well, I've got a Kemper. Jim, when he got his Kemper, I remember he liked it so much, and I played one before. So I have one. I got the Kemper cone, and I just go straight into the Kemper. Sometimes I'll put effects into it, but it sounds great as it is, and it's just great, man, because you can get so many profiles. The profiles kill. I like the distortion tones, but I'm kind of like John. I like a lot of the matchless AC30 kind of jangly kind of tones. It really kills the clean stuff. But I mean, it's got great effects. You can do so much stuff. I mainly right now I'm using I get this new Axis Ernie Ball from 2021. It's great. Put a 1984 Floyd on it, and I got it set to float, and it's got a great neck. Love it. I have a EVH Wolfgang. I use these are probably my main ones, my Strat and a Les Paul, and I use a John Suhr guitar, which I just love. It's great, plays great. So what I do mainly a wet, dry, wet, but I go between two amps. I go between my Egnator or my Marshall or my Suhr, and I run that. I take a line out of those. Now my Suhr's at it's a 100-watt amp. It's loud. It's got a master on the back, but you still got to bring it down. So if you look on my little cab on my Egnator, I got a power station Fryette, which I can bring I can take a line level out. So I'll send to my rack unit behind me. I'll get out of the way so you can kind of see it. I've got so I go into a switcher I guess I'll kind of go back here and show you guys. I don't have a gear cam like John does. So I'll go in here to my switcher. Then I go into a compressor for my clean stuff. And I got a tri-chorus, which I use in the SPX 90, which I like for chorus stuff. I got 2 Roland STE 3000s, which I'll use in stereo.
Wow.
I have a PCM 42 and an Eventide Eclipse, and I'll use it for like detuning or harmony or something like that. Reverb. I've got some pedals and a tray. I've got a MX R Phase 90. I just got modded. I got a Big Sky reverb, some choruses, and sometimes I'll push the SIR a little bit just with a Wampler pedal. And they go out to these Egnator. Those are my wet cabs because I live in an apartment, so I can't really go too loud because the cops come and I don't like them coming. Then I got a Fryette power station below power amp, which kind of powers all the effects in the rack, the wet cabs.
Yeah.
So it works good. It sounds great. It's loud as all get out. But then I have sometimes I'll bring in, like I said, I'll switch out the SIR for my 71 Super Lead Marshall and my Fawn 50 watt JMP. I think that 50 watt JMP, the Fawn, it might be louder than my 71. I don't know why.
Really?
It's just ungodly loud. And then sometimes I use the Egnator. And then I got a 5150 combo on the side. You can't really see that. That's just, those combos are just so loud. I think they're heavier than 2 houses combined. But yeah, it's great, man. I love the effects in it.
Andrew knows that.
I'll just set the delays to 250, 500. I got different settings. Just it's kind of whatever sounds good. But one thing about a lot of wet, dry, wet, some guys they always ask me like, oh, you got to have 412s for your wet cats. That's not true, because even if you got 3 412s and you got 412s for your wet, you want to make sure that your wet cabs are a little bit lower than your dry, because if they overpower it, you're not really hearing. You might as well just run stereo, because I see guys like, oh, I got 2 cabs, I'm running ping pong delay, I got a wet, dry, wet. I'm like, no, it's actually just stereo. So I always like to make sure the dry is the loudest and then bring in the effects. It's about the mix, really. That's how I see it.
Well, you guys kind of didn't mention, and I'd like to hear the answer to is what's your favorite pickups? What do you guys like for pickups?
I like my EVH that came in the Wolfgang. I'm fine with those. I got a Pasadena black and one guitar. I love it. It's great. And I like the pickups in this in my Axis. Now, I think they actually made these a little bit hotter than the regular Anani's Axis, but they sound great. But they are, to my ears, just a little bit hotter than the Alnico 2s in my EVH.
Interesting.
John, what pickups have you got on your 5150 there, bro?
This one has the Craig Stofko CHS put in a Pasadena 86. I like it. I don't know if I love it. I like it. I had another one of their Pariahs that I liked. It was called the Joel Bucker. I think it was a special wine. I think it's I don't think they have it on their website. Joel Bucker. I assume it's their JB version of a JB. I have an old JB that I like a lot that I swapped it out. I had that in there. And I do like the EVH pickups. I think they sound pretty good. They sound good in everything pretty much. And I mess around with different things. I have a 59 that I took I think it had an A5 magnet in it, and I put a Alnico 2 in there. And it's not very hot, but it cleans up. It's really nice, clean kind of sound. So, but every guitar is a little bit different. You do weird things with them. Like your Gretsch in the back there. I have one of those 5120 Gretches.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so it's got those humbuckers in it, I guess they are. But I saw a YouTube video where it says to remove the screws out of them, and it gives it more of a single coil kind of sound. So I did that. And it kind of does. It gives it a little more. It changes the tone. So I took all those screws out of there. So I don't know. I just mess around and hope to find something that sounds good. But I don't know that I'm ever happy with anything.
Can you guys just continue the conversation that we're having in the green room before we went live, just in case people don't know this, the history of the JB, the name of the JB pickup, and how it. Yeah, do you want to just briefly talk about that? Because
everybody assumes.
I don't think anyone has spoken about that on any other EVH show.
Yeah, a lot of people assume that JB is Jeff Beck, which it kind of is. I guess his tech stole his PAFs out of one of his guitars at one point and put other pickups in there and tried to trick him or something like that. So Seymour Duncan wound these pickups for him, I guess. He never used the name Jeff Beck for them because you'd have to pay him, obviously. And I know they were very close friends, and Jeff Beck, because I think they liked hot rods, and I think Seymour did too. But so it's really jazz blues. JB is jazz blues, but as we were saying in the green room, no jazz guy or blues guy would probably use them because they're so hot. They're pretty hot pickups, you know. They're like
it's not jazz, bro. It's not a jazz pickup.
Yeah, exactly. So the really, I think the technical term for them is jazz blues, but I think they were JBs for Jeff Beck, you know, wound that way for him, but. You know, and I do believe that some people are going to disagree with me, but I do believe that the original pickup in the 5150 Kramer was a JB. I mean, Seymour has said it. You know, Larry DiMarzio said it. Jim DeCola pretty much. They said, you know, I know Larry DiMarzio has said that it was a JB. He should know what the JB, you know, what it looks like. But so. How I feel about that. I think that's what it was, and, you know, and it makes sense, you know.
And a lot of people don't know, like, you know, if you go out and buy a JB tomorrow, they're going to sound different than the ones that were made in the 80s. They just sound different. I've played, I think the ones now are a lot hotter and spikier, but I think the ones in the 80s just sounds balanced. You know, I mean, they're pretty hot pickups. But the ones in the 80s, I definitely think they sound better. And they do matter what guitar you put them in. They're going to sound different in a Les Paul than in a Charvel because they're different wood, different, you know.
They're Seymour Duncan's best-selling pickup of all time. That's their flagship pickup, believe it or not.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm a fan of them.
I swear I'm going to find it somewhere. I had, because the reason I bought a JB is because I remember – I said it to you guys somewhere. Ed said in one sentence in an interview, somebody asked him about the guitar, the pickup in it, and it was just like in passing, he made a comment. It's just an old JB. That was pretty much all he said. It's just an old JB. Somewhere I had it. I know he said it. I've been trying to find it. I have magazines, hundreds of them, obviously packed away, but someday I'll find it. Hopefully before we're all dead, and I will let everybody. I'll know. But I do have Seymour Duncan saying that it was a JB. It was just a JB, he said. So I took a screenshot of that. I have that somewhere, and I do believe it. It just makes sense. I think there's a lot of mythology surrounding Ed's equipment and his pickups and everything like this. I think he wanted to portray that out there, but a lot of times I think it was just all smoke and mirrors. I think it was just, you know, a lot of it wasn't, you know, what it was made out to be. You know, it sounds great.
The whole like magic pickup thing, like it's
exactly.
That's
if you notice when they put the meter on the Frankenstein, the pickup registered 0. It was completely dead. And then I think they did it on the 5150, and that one registered 0 too. You know, it's like, I don't know, where the coil was broken on one of them. The 5150, the coil was broken, or, you know, so. That gave it that magical sound, which I'm sure that probably did, because Jim DeCola had the pickup. Eddie gave it to him and said, figure out what's wrong with this pickup and figure out how to make one like it.
Yeah.
And I tried to press Jim DeCola on it when I messaged him back and forth, and he wouldn't tell me what was wrong with it because obviously, you know, it's a secret. But he said that he figured it out pretty quickly what it was, and he was able to duplicate it. And he said he let Eddie know, hey, here you go, I got it. And Eddie told him to keep it. Yeah, at that point, Eddie had moved on, I guess, to whatever pickups he wound for the Wolfgang, for the PV. And he just said, yeah, just keep it. So, you know, Jim DeCola knows what it was. It was a broken coil or something like that, because it you know, it is a pretty cool sounding pickup, because I don't know, I always thought sometimes it even had like single coil-ish kind of sound to it. You know what I mean? That pickup. So I don't know what it was about it, and I don't know that he changed that pickup in that guitar many times, or if he did.
No.
You know what I mean? I think it was.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I heard for years rumors, way before the JB. I heard, people, oh, it's an old 50, it's a 59. I'm like, oh wow, when I bought a 59, and I'm like, well, it didn't really, of course, who knows what he's using for, I don't have his Marshall and his hands and all that, so
right.
Sure.
But whatever whatever he did, we all know it sounded amazing.
Yeah, I think it's hotter than a 59 for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? It definitely was.
But and it's not spiky and compressed like a modern day JB. So
right,
it's a blessing that he broke a few coils on it or whatnot.
Yeah,
and got the way it sounded.
Exactly. But apparently, whatever he did, Jim DeCola was able to figure out pretty quickly. So he knows what the secret is for that. But at the same time, I forget who was that pointed it out. It's like, listen, he just buy either that Tone Zone, or what was the other one that DiMarzio made? Tone Zone and Air Norton. Air Norton was the neck pickup. The Tone Zone was the bridge pickup. Just buy the Tone Zone, because Eddie wanted a pickup that sounded like that guitar, the 5150, and Larry DiMarzio, obviously he got to look at that pickup and figure out, what was going on with it enough and try to duplicate it. And so that's pretty much it. And I guess the starting ground for even the PV Wolfgang pickups was that pickup also, because obviously he, wanted DeCola to look at that too. So, I'm sure they're colored differently because his taste changed and everything like that. But I think he based all his guitar pickups and Wolfgangs on that Kramer 5150 pickup. Just like, the neck is supposed to be on the Music Man or on the Axis is supposed to be based on the actual 5150 neck, which is, a little narrower and a little bit rounder, I guess, in the back, So that's, that's a reason to go buy those pickups. But,
I've got, as you guys know, Craig's working on that guitar for me, the Ernie Ball Gold Top, and I decided to go with I wanted to try the Pasadena. No, what are they called? The pound cakes, the Pariah pound cakes. So
sure,
I'm looking forward to like getting that and seeing what that's about.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people swear by them, but I don't know. See what you think of them, because it's like like I was saying with this one in here, the Pasadena 86. It's like, well, it's supposed to be like the Live Without a Net sound, I guess, but it's like, well, how do you know?
I feel like it's easier to replicate the pound cake. I know exactly what you mean. I feel like it's easier to replicate the pound cake sound, like the Ernie Ball ones, because you can get some Ernie Ball pickups, and if you know what you're doing, maybe copy them or to some degree, but you're not going to go over to 5150 and rip that pickup out of the 5150. You know what I mean?
No, you're right.
Yeah.
That's it.
John, what's in the 86? What magnet is it? A2 or A5?
I think it's an A5.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah. I don't really know. Craig knows. He just put it in there. He's like, you got to try this pickup. So I go, okay. I like their other pickup, that Joel Bucker. I don't know what it is. It's not on their website, but I think it's their version of the JB. But I did like the way that one sounded. But I took that out and I put it in I had an old JB from like the 80s, and I put that one in there, and I just left that in the other one that I had, 5150, that I had. But,
I had a JB like probably 10 years ago, and I had a friend, he was going to swap the magnet. He never did, but I wanted to put an A2 in it because I know a lot of guys wanted to. Swapping magnets on JB was like a really cool trick. A lot of people were doing. Did you ever have the Bare Knuckles Van Halen 2 pickup?
No, I never did. Craig was big on those too. He really loved. He really loved those.
I didn't. I had that when it first came out. Jim and I had it years ago, and I just couldn't. It wasn't a bad pickup. It just wasn't for me. It was like a 9K, Jim. It was low.
I specifically bought this guitar because it had a Van Halen. It had the what was it called?
Bare
Knuckle.
Had the Bare Knuckles VH2, and I don't know if it was the guitar or it could be a lot of variables. But what's that?
That's it. That's the 80s Pasadena.
It is
Alnico 5 less. Alnico.
Oh, cool, nice.
Yeah. So
I've been seeing a lot of those lately.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the Van Halen 2, and again, even when like you said, David Friedman and Pete Thorne did that shootout when they exposed the Van Halen 2. I was like, yeah, I wasn't crazy about it. But that it works. The thing with pickups is that there's so many variables in your chain. So like it might not work for you, but the other guy, might be as like holy grail. That's the thing.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Sure.
That's true.
I was playing I had a Friedman Brown Eye 100 watt year from like 2014, and I plugged my EVH into it. It just sounded it just had that sound, you didn't mess with it. But then I remember one time I got a Charvel, which was Alder, and I had a Warranty Martini RTM, Raditz Tonus Maximus. That pickup was Alnico 2, but 17K, and it sounded like shit.
Really?
You're like, oh, it's Alnico 2, it'll sound warm. 17K is 17K. It was just hot, and it was compressed. And
too hot, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, wow.
That's my gold top that Craig's building me.
Nice. Let me know when you get it.
It's actually Jimmy's guitar.
No, I'll tell you, man. If Conks wants it, go ahead and get it, man. But you have to make the payment on it.
No, that's all right. You can have it.
Hey, you should take that Floyd off and put a cable.
I will gladly, have Craig make me another one. He can make me another one. Conks, you can have it, man. Anybody wants it, they can have it. They just
Conks, make sure Craig scallops it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Scallops that neck.
Jim, you waited a long time for this one, so
you waited a long time. Hey guys, listen, I'm gonna take a break. I gotta go do somebody's at the door, but I'll be back in just a few minutes. All right,
we're going to wind up soon anyway. But not only can Craig make fantastic guitars, guys, go and check out his Facebook page. The guy can cook a mean steak.
A mean chili. A mean chili.
A mean chili.
Right? He's in a chili tournament today. He's the most interesting man on earth, Craig.
Oh, mate, he's fantastic.
A chili cook-off today, I guess, somewhere he's doing,
Yeah.
He's amazing,
guys.
Craig. He really is.
We're going to wind up the show soon, ladies and gentlemen. It's we'll wait till Les Paul comes back. Been fascinating talking to you guys about gear, and I think this is one of the great things that we love. And I think you just said it all before, Jimmy. It's like pickups. What works for someone else may not work for someone else. And I saw a comment up here earlier where Brody was seriously considering checking out a Kemper because of what you guys have been saying about a Kemper. So
if you got any questions, man, I've got some videos or whatever. You can hear it. Like I said, I use mine as an amp. So if you want to hit me up with some questions, here's the thing. Brody's got an incredible collection. He doesn't need a Kemper. You know what I mean? It's not for everybody. You know what I'm saying? It's not like I'm not trying to sell a Kemper to anybody, right? I just mean that for me, it's made my life a lot easier. And I can't tell you can't tell the difference. It's not like it's like you go from an amp that's pushing air to like suddenly you have like a transistor sound and you're like you got to but you want to have a modeler. But the other thing is that, like I said earlier, that Kemper it's not really modeling, it's profiling.
Sure.
You're not. It's not like you're stuck to the algorithm or whatever that company has designed. It's basically a snapshot. These profiles are made from real amps. It's not like just digital. It's digital, but it's not like it comes from nowhere and it's just numbers and stuff, right? To get these profiles, you have to hook up a real amp to the Kemper and take that snapshot or whatever it's called. That's really it. But so it's not. The guy's got an incredible collection. I'd be happy playing that. But for me, it's just a lot easier. I could basically connect 4 cables to that thing, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, the Kemper and the head rush are completely different animals. Like Jimmy said, the Kemper is it's a profiler. The head rush is not.
It's a modeler.
It's a modeler, right? Exactly.
Yeah, and I've got the head rush, and the advantage over the Kemper and the head rush, Keith, for bedroom playing, it's fantastic. We're talking about the head rush here, and it's
Yeah.
easier on your wallet. Trust me,
Yeah.
brother. It's
Yeah,
you know
right.
the MX5. It's fantastic for value for money. From what I understand, and obviously having Jimmy on, the Kemper is great for gigging. For taking it to that extra level, that extra.
You can also, I mean, you can also, use it in your bedroom. It's just that, it's like forget the thing. It's, I don't know, it's like $2,000. It's not, it's a lot, it's a more expensive than say a head rush.
5K here.
But
It's
it can be
5K
played
here,
at,
bro.
any volume,
Yeah, it's
Got a headphone jack.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. It's got headphones. Yeah. You're right about that. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, to buy a Kemper here in New Zealand, you're in another league altogether.
Oh, forget it. I imagine. Can't imagine. Take a second
yeah.
mortgage out on your house, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's another aspect too that you got to take into account. I suppose when you're
Andrew,
cone
when I
chasing
come over,
is
Andrew,
geography.
Andrew, when I come over to New Zealand, I will put one in my suitcase for you. Okay?
Cheers, brother.
Yeah, man.
Are we going to wait for Les Paul before we wind up the show, or are we just going to?
we don't need
No,
No,
he's not coming back. He's not.
Okay, all right. I just hope that he realizes that whoever's knocking on the door and they go into the studio to do a rendezvous kind of thing, he realizes that he's still got his camera going.
Yeah.
Nothing. Maybe we should drop him out.
I think if we wait maybe 3 minutes, we'll see him walking by naked.
Yeah, let's quick. Let's wind it up real quick, guys.
His camera's still on. He doesn't know that.
Quick, wind it up.
Oh, look, as usual, guys, it's been a fun hangout. I'm going to be back here later this evening here on the Sunday show with the Rock Professor and Brad. We're going to be doing part 2 of Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction.
I've been listening to part 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you my Guns N' Roses story?
Tell us.
Okay, so I was at Boston University in 1986, right? And
you're not really. How old were you in 1986? 12.
So Appetite came out when was I soft? I think when did that come out? 87.
Yeah, 87.
All right, so yeah, I think it was a sophomore. So it was my sophomore year. So there's a station WBCN, and they played. I think the very first song was "Out to Get Me" that I heard, and I was like, "What the hell is this? This is incredible!" Right? And right next to my hold on, let me set up my just so my computer doesn't die. I gotta set up the battery here. So well, hang on a sec. Where's that thing? Oh, here we go. So right next to my dorm, and it's still there. There's a famous rock club called the Paradise Club. So I was walking by. I heard BCM was playing Guns N' Roses. I mean, this is right when the album came out. They were nobodies, right? So I know I was walking by the Paradise was right behind my dorm. It's like 200 steps from my dorm, and I saw Guns N' Roses like on a Monday night. They're coming, right? Like 3 weeks, right? And it was Guns N' Roses and EZO, that Japanese band, right? I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna go. I knew nothing about these guys, but I loved that song. Okay, and I every once in a while I'd go home. This was in Boston, so I went, come back to Connecticut, and so this was like in 3 weeks. 2 weeks later, I'm home and I'm watching Headbangers Ball, and they're playing, Welcome to the Jungle, and like, Axl looks all crazy, and I'm like, whoa, right? I mean, you have to take it in the context of that time frame, right? Nobody knew who these guys were, and quite frankly, look, right now those guys are like a cartoon character. Slash is like, like your grandmother's best friend. But back then, those guys were fucking dangerous. That was the most dangerous fucking band on the planet. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be swearing, right?
It's okay.
But so I was like, oh shit. I mean, I'm like total heroin, right? Okay, let's be real, except for maybe Axl, right? So I come back to Boston, and I'm telling you, this place was like, I had to walk 20 steps from my door. It was that close. Okay. So I could not get anybody to go with me. This puts in the context that these guys were nobody. Nobody knew them. This was 2 weeks after Appetite, 3 weeks after Appetite was released.
Correct.
Okay. that they didn't become huge until a year later with Sweet Child of Mine, right? Could not get anybody to go on a Monday night. Nobody. I mean, we didn't even have to drive. We had to walk 200 steps, really. Okay.
Crazy. That's crazy.
Like around the corner. Okay. Count your steps, right? So look this up. Paradise. You'll see it. It's Paradise Club in Boston. So I finally got my buddy to go. Okay. We were going to go, we were going to go down there at 8:00. I call him up at 7:30. Yo, bro, you ready to go? We're going to go. Come on, man. We're going to go see this show. Right. It was like, I don't know, $8. Right. No, man. I'm not going to. I don't know, man. I never even heard of these guys. All right. So I'm like, you know what? F this. I went down there by myself. Right. Doors. I went down there and it's me and these two girls waiting. The doors weren't even opened yet. Conks, I ever tell you the story?
You did, yep.
Okay, yeah. The doors weren't even opened yet, right? We're waiting, we're waiting. This was like, I don't know. I actually have a bootleg of that show downstairs. I found it in Boston a couple of years later. It was the winter. It was maybe like January or something. I can't remember. So we're outside. The doors aren't open yet. And there's this big tour bus out in front. Okay? The door's open. This guy comes out. And he's like, he looks at three of us. Okay? Again, me and two girls. My buddy didn't go with me. Okay? Guy comes out, looks at us. He's like, which one of you girls wants to take a ride on the bus? I don't know.
Jimmy said me.
Those girls were like, oh boy, right? Doors open. We go in. Okay. I can still picture it, this place, right? It was the whole night. It was basically me and maybe 17 people. That was it. We were so I was closer to those guys than I am to my computer screen right now.
Wow.
At the end of the night, I had a little discussion with Slash. At the end of the night, I'm leaving, but because I was in front of Slash the whole night. Again, just 17. There was nobody there. There was nobody there for EZO. There was basically there was a few more people there for Guns N' Roses. At the end of the night, those guys go off stage. They basically played the first album in its entirety, and then some AC/DC stuff. And so they leave, and we kind of like realized that there wasn't going to be an encore or whatever. I only had to walk
200 steps.
200 steps to my dorm, right? So they turn the lights on, and I'm about to walk out, and this place had the dressing room was on the second floor. And there was a big window, right, that overlooked the room. And as I'm walking, I hear this knock, right, up above me, and it's Slash. He's banging on the window, pointing at me, right, because I was talking to him. I was right in front of him the whole night, and I go, what do you want, right, like what? And he turns around and moans me, and I'm like, all right, dude. I just walked out, and then a year later, I am like a legend with my friends because they're all like, "Oh my god, dude, we should have gone with you." I'm like, "Yo, man." They're like, "Dude, you should have been like an A&R guy. You could, you know what I mean? Whatever.
You could have been their next producer.
Guys, they easily could have gone with me, And like a year later, they were like the biggest band in the world, basically. But it cannot be undersaid that band at that time was dangerous, man. They're not the cartoon characters they are now with the top stuff.
Yeah, now he's on credit card commercials, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now he's doing what was that? Yeah, insurance or something.
Capital One.
Capital One. Yeah. Yes. That was a good time.
No, you're right. You're right, guys.
I've been listening to your Guns N' Roses thing. I'm going to tune in for part 2. Yep.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. And we're lucky to have Brad lead that because he's played in a tribute band and, takes it seriously.
I didn't know that. I found that out, and that's cool, man.
Yeah, it has the top hat.
Yeah, and we won't be having Carl on, so we'll have no technical difficulties with him logging on to the show. It'll just be the Rock Professor and I and Brad. But you've a monumental album, foundational album. And you're right, Jimmy. We got to remember this. They were dangerous. They weren't poison.
No.
back then. You know, they weren't. And Johnny mentioned it before. They weren't Bon Jovi. You know, they were dangerous, and they loved that reputation, and they certainly cultivated it, didn't they? So good on them. It's rock and roll.
They were the only band I remember in the 80s that was adamant about using heroin. The Rolling Stones, I'm like, heroin? I thought you guys just did Krell and drank beer and got high, but they were doing heroin, you know. And I remember, you know, seeing Slash always with vodka and Jack and stuff, and they were, yeah, you're right, they were a dangerous ass band. And I think this is back when Slash was using those BC Riches too.
That's right.
Jacksons.
Yeah.
Before he was a Les Paul guy.
No, he when I saw him, he just had that Derek Les Paul. That was it.
Oh, nice. Damn, he's probably still playing that right now.
Oh, yeah. So, no, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you guys. We're going to be back with the four of us in a couple of weeks' time. We'll schedule another show here on the channel, and we'll talk all things EVH. And obviously, it's just our opinion, guys. We're just fans hanging out, aren't we? Les Paul, Jimmy, and John. We're just fans hanging out, just sharing our experiences. None of us are experts.
Nope.
Just guys with a lot of gear and a lot of time on hands.
Good note,
Jimmy. I'm going to let you have the last word, bro, because you did a wonderful thing a couple of days ago. You had a great gig. You organised a great gig locally. You got some people together to celebrate, EVH's birthday. You put your money where your mouth is. You get out there. You rock and roll, brother. It's worth a pat on the back, bro. So, going to give you final words, bro, and we'll split.
Okay. First, I mean, like I always say, thanks for tuning in and even caring to watch us. I mean, thank you. That's humbling. Thank you. We got some great players in the chat and all that. So, a lot of great gearheads and all that. Like I said, I think at the beginning of the show, my whole band is grateful that we had a good show and they worked out, and we'll keep the ball rolling. And I've got some footage that I'm gonna sift through and maybe use that to get some other gigs. Trying to break into theaters or whatever. But all in all, it was a great week. It started with the show on Thursday, ended with this show today. It's great being here and talking to you guys and having people care about Van Halen or gear and all that. I mean, we can, Les and Conks and I talk about that, every day about, we have our chat that we talk about, amps and guitars and all that. So
every day.
Yeah, every day.
And
thanks for that, guys.
And we'll be back with more.
Again, thanks to Janice for coming and checking the band out and all that. So we're grateful. Louis Costa that came out. Thank you.
Awesome. What I'm going to attempt one thing before I go. I'm going to go through and I'm going to attempt a shout out before we hit the final video. Tim Thomas, thank you, brother. Keith Campbell. God bless you, brother. Go and check out Keith. He's on Fruitcake Tony's show. He's a regular there. Christopher Live Sawa. Good to see you, brother. Janice, fantastic rock and roll. We've got R2, R3, Lockie Nut in here. Another very good friend of the channel. Thank you for hanging out. We've got the Rock Professor who's been banning people and deleting comments and going crazy with his bum dialing with his phone, but he's apologized to everybody for doing that. So thank you, Rock Professor. Jimmy Ray Hawkins is here hanging out with us. Thank you, brother. It's always a pleasure catching up with you. If I miss anybody, please forgive me. Tim Thomas, another very good friend here hanging out with us. Jimmy Carr, good to see you, bro. Mikey Mojo.
Jimmy Carr, what's up, man? Thanks, dude.
Yeah, Jimmy Carr. Mikey Mojo is here as well. Always a pleasure seeing Mikey Mojo. I'm scrolling up. Johnny Bean was here. Thank you, Johnny Bean. A very good friend of the channel, Brody Hutchins.
Yes,
come and hang out with us. We're going to have Brody on here in a couple of weeks' time.
Maybe the F.U.C.K pickup was the Johnny Bean pickup. Did anybody ever consider that?
Oh,
JB, Johnny Bean. There you go.
JB pickup, man.
That dog's
We've
making
been this whole time.
Holly Lewis was here, is here. Charles Green, thank you, brother. Thank you for supporting our channel. It's always fantastic. I'm scrolling all the way up, ladies and gentlemen. Kubrick Lover was here, another good friend of the channel. We had Under the Bus Network here. Thank you for joining us, bro. All the best to Jay Hannon and his family and his daughter, who's recovering well. Paulie Walnuts was here, guys. Oh my gosh, we had Adam Roach here as well. Jeepers, we had a few people hanging out with us. Tim Thomas. I think that's about it. Robert Ranford. John ZD351. Hellface was here. And Guitar Man 45. I think that's it. At one stage, we had about 28 people watching us. Thank you for hanging out, supporting our channel. I'm going to include John's Instagram account, Jim's Instagram account, and Les Paul Gibson. Send me any social media links that you want, and I can attach that to this video where you can go and check out these guys, keep up to date with what they're doing. Are we out of here, guys?
Yeah, it was a great show. Thanks, everybody.
Good time. Always.
Bye-bye, everyone.